It's a fall-like evening in Queens. One more game to go on the homestand. Yeah, there's tennis too. See the racket and everything. But baseball perpetuates. At Citi Field, the Mets close out their homestand against the Marlins. At Citi Field in New York, the New York Mets play the Florida Marlins. This Mets game on SNY is presented in HD by IOTV. Get the best in HD free with IOTV. And a pleasant good evening, everybody, and welcome to Citi Field. Gary Cohen, Ron Darling, Keith Hernandez with you tonight. Thanks, guys, for holding down the fort last night.
Not a great job, by the way.
We missed you.
That was outstanding work on your part. The Mets close out their series against the Marlins tonight. Last night, the Marlins made it 2 straight over the Mets, despite the best efforts of Angel Pagan, who had yet another 2-hit game. He's riding a 9-game hitting streak, and Angel continues to burnish his credentials, looking for a job next year.
Well, one of the guys that has taken advantage of this injury-riddled season for the Mets, that man right there, Angel Pagan. Coming into the game tonight, hitting .306 in 66 ball games. Gary said a 9-game hitting streak. Over those 9 games, hitting over 400. Tied for 3rd in the National League with 9 triples, and he particularly loves to hit here at Citi. And for the season this year, hitting .319 in this brand-new ballpark.
And with Carlos Beltran sitting out tonight, Pagan moves back to center field after playing left field the last 2 nights. Bobby Parnell goes to the mound for the Mets tonight, looking to back up what was a brilliant outing his last time out against the Cubs.
You know, Jerry Manuel was with the Montreal Expos. They used to develop a lot of players on the big league level. He said they could get away with it because they had such a high ceiling. I think Bobby Parnell is that kind of pitcher. They're trying to develop him because he has such a high ceiling that they believe he can be a 2nd or 3rd starter down the line. He'll try to continue his good pitching like he did in his last start with 7 shutout innings.
And the Marlins will go with fellow rookie Sean West, the left-hander, who's thrown 2 very good games against the Mets already.
He really has, and West, the big left-hander, throws a lot of strikes. He's done a nice job now of working with pitching coach Mark Wiley, using that sinker ball to keep the ball on the ground more.
So it's Parnell for the Mets, West for the Marlins. Mets and Marlins hoping the rain holds off at Citi Field. All the action coming up on SNY. IOTV. Get the best in HD free with IOTV. By Gallagher Steakhouse, home of sports heroes past and present at Broadway's Theater District at West 52nd Street since 1927. By Fox Business Network, opportunity pure and simple. By Citi. By AT&T. And by the Rums of Puerto Rico, inviting you to enjoy the finest rums of the world. The Mets team store at Citi Field, adjacent to the Jackie Robinson Rotunda, is open 7 days a week. Get your exclusive Citi Field inaugural season merchandise at the Mets team store in the new home of amazing. Visit the team store during your next trip to Citi Field. Here's your Mets upcoming schedule. Remember, all Mets games on SNY are available in HD, presented by IOTV. And if you're in the car, listen to every Mets game on Sports Radio 66 WFAN. Mets will go to Philadelphia for 4 games in 3 days, starting tomorrow night with Nelson Figueroa against Cole Hamels on Pix 11 tomorrow night. Day-night doubleheader Sunday. Then after a day off Monday, the Mets go to Atlanta for 3 before coming back home a week from tomorrow to play the Washington Nationals. Bobby Parnell making his way in from the bullpen, looking to back up his tremendous performance his last time out. Mets and Marlins, first pitch coming up. Is the 8th anniversary of the 9/11 attacks, and the Mets will be on the road tomorrow, so they took this opportunity tonight to honor the heroes and the victims 8 years hence. Here's your Marlins starting lineup tonight, brought to you by Smirnoff. Last night, Cody Ross's 3-run homer in the first inning, his first in 107 at-bats, his 21st of the year, and it gave the Marlins the quick start that they needed for a 6-3 win. Chris Coughlin's been red hot on that leadoff spot despite going hitless in this series so far. And Hanley Ramirez continues to lead the National League in batting, taking on Bobby Parnell tonight.
You know, both Ross and Uggla have low averages against the Mets' career, but they always seem to do some major damage, as they both had a home run last night. And Bobby Parnell will have to try to keep that two-seamer down in the strike zone. That has been the key against Ross and Uggla. But Parnell coming off 7 sharp innings. In fact, his best innings all season long. There's Cody Ross taping the bat.
Cody, of course, with that famous shaved head of his.
You didn't tape the bat, did you, Keith?
No, I did not like the tape. Did not.
What is the purpose of taping your bat? I mean, guys wear batting gloves now. It used to be you needed grip on the bat. Why do they tape it now?
Well, it's always that white adhesive tape that has a rough finish to it on top. It's for grip. I just never liked it because I like to get my bat. That's why I never use gloves. I just liked my handle the way it was, but I'm sure you can get a thinner handle bat. If you wanted to put tape on it, but you know, to each his own. It's the individual player's preference.
So you're saying sometimes they can put tape around to augment the thickness of the bat, then?
Yes.
Okay.
But I think primarily the tape is for grip.
One thing about guys who tape their bats, they're very meticulous about it.
Just like hockey players.
And one thing about this this Metsy lefty defense tonight, I'll spit it out. 27th start for Tatis at first base. The left-hander, of course, Murphy will get a rest, and Pagan back in center. Evans gets a start in left.
Chris Coghlan leads things off. First pitch by Parnell is on the inside corner, and we're underway. Coghlan 0 for 6 in this series, but he's scored a couple of runs, and he's hitting .305. A prime candidate for National League Rookie of the Year honors. 1-1 to Coghlan. You know, you mentioned hockey players. Very interesting. Have you ever been in the hallway next to a hockey locker room and seen the blowtorch that they use on their sticks?
Yeah, to make sure they get the right curvature.
I mean, could you imagine letting baseball players use a blowtorch right next to the locker room?
How about Randy Myers in the day? He probably had one.
Among other things.
Well, I remember when they wouldn't allow you to have pine tar above when I played above the label of the bat.
Coghlan lines a base hit to left center to start the proceedings. Cut off by Evans, and Coghlan's going to try for 2, and the throw comes up short, and Coghlan with a hustle double to start the night. This kid continues to impress.
Well, you got a team here that's just fighting for its playoff life here. They can't afford to lose very many games, and look, the hustle on Coghlan.
And Keith, I bet you in the scouting reports they probably let the players know, hey, listen, Evans is usually a first baseman. He's playing left field today. If you want to take advantage, that's a place to go.
Well, I hate to bring up, a former Met and 86 member, but the scouting report we always had on Lee Mazzelli when he played the outfield was that he had no arm you could tag up on and take the extra base. Sorry, Lee. No offense.
And I think in Evans' case, it's his second start since July. He's trying to be very sure of himself to make sure he didn't let that ball get by him, and Coghlan took full advantage. Nick Johnson, 3 for 7 in this series, hitting .302 for the year. Nick has played 18 games with the Marlins, and he's hitting .345 in those 18 games. Since he's come back from a hamstring injury, Freddie Gonzalez has been getting him out of games late. He pinch ran for him last night and had him out of the game for the last 2 innings. Santos stops the breaking ball in the dirt, and it's 3-0.
It's interesting, Keith, when I was looking at David Wright off third, and he's way off third base. The first pitch, Coghlan looked like he was trying to measure Parnell to maybe beat right to the bag for a stolen base, but not that time. Much more conservative base running that time.
I think with the bat of Nick Johnson, the veteran bat, a guy who can handle the bat, he's going to get something he can pull to advance, and you don't want to run your team out of an inning.
And you got the league's leading hitter, Hanley Ramirez, on deck. The Marlins start the day still 6 games behind the Phillies, who've taken the first 2 of their series with Washington. They play again tonight, and the Phillies have taken an early 1-0 lead in the first inning. Foul down the left side, 3-2. And the Marlins also 5.5 back in the wild card start in the day, but Colorado won this afternoon, so that's now 6. And the Marlins don't play the Rockies at all, but they do play the Phillies going down the stretch. So they probably have a better path to the division than they do to the wild card, although neither is a particularly likely scenario.
I do think schedule-wise that St. Louis goes into Colorado to play a series too.
And the Phillies now up 2-0 early in that game in Washington.
Off Livan Hernandez pitching for the Nationals.
How many times have we seen Levon give up runs early?
3-2 to Johnson after Parnell was behind 3-0, and he ends up walking him. And the Marlins have the first 2 men on.
Last night, Pat Mish was hurt early in the first inning, and Parnell getting in a little trouble here for Dan Worthen. You know, one of the scheduling things that's going to hurt the Florida team is that they have a scheduled doubleheader with the Philadelphia Phillies because of a football game on a Monday night. So always hard to sweep a doubleheader.
Then again, if they sweep the doubleheader, that's 2 games in one day and can give you a lot of momentum.
Big boost.
Yeah. So now Parnell with a tough assignment, first and second, nobody out, and Hanley Ramirez, who's hitting .357 to lead the National League, stepping in. And he starts him off with a slider in the dirt. There are the wild card standings with the Rockies winning today. That drops the Giants 4.5 back. The Giants fading now, dropping a couple to the Padres.
Braves and the Cubs are done.
Yep.
I didn't like the look of the Cubs when the Mets went into Wrigley. They played with no spirit.
Yeah,
You thought they were just playing the season out.
I agree.
And if the Braves weren't done before, last night Tommy Hanson, 8 shutout innings, no walks, 98 pitches. Cox takes him out, brings in Soriano, gives up a 2-run single to Miguel Tejada in the bottom of the 9th. Braves lose 2-1. 1-0 to Ramirez with 2 on, and a grounder over the bank, just foul. 1-1. I mean, that's just, if you're hanging on the fringes of a race, that's a loss that just kills you.
Well, that's a nice shot right there. Nice angle.
Well,
Nice.
we've seen it. There's rules all over for young pitchers. Of course, if you live in New York City, you've got the Java rules. We have heard about Brent Cecil, left-handed pitcher for Toronto. He's going to be shut down for the rest of the season. And Hanson, they're trying to be very careful with him, despite needing that game.
Matt Latos in San Diego has also been shut down for the year. Ramirez smacks it foul, and it's 1-2.
It reminds me of that interview that Jack Lambert, the old Hall of Fame middle linebacker for the Steelers, made when he started protecting the quarterbacks. And Lambert, with the tooth missing, the front tooth, goes, pretty soon, why don't we just put skirts on the quarterbacks? I'll never forget that. Of course, everybody put a collective cringe.
Here's your twilight sky. Rain is held off so far. 1-2 to Hanley Ramirez. Still nobody out. And time asked for.
That's too late. I know that you probably might disagree with me, Keith, but when the pitcher has come to the set and is ready to throw the baseball, this is too late. Ready to go.
Now, Ron, that was a slider. When you do that and you tip your pitch, now what do? Do you want to counter, or
that's part of what makes you angry? That's the you've already told what's happening.
Ground ball to short, not hit hard, and Anderson Hernandez boots it and loses every play, and the bases are loaded. What looked like a possible double play ball instead turns into no outs. An error on Hernandez loads the bases.
Well, nice job by Coughlin here getting in front of the ball, but it shouldn't have affected Anderson, who's played a very good shortstop here on this homestand. I got to add that.
But you'll see, Keith, all the time, don't you, when a fast runner is running the bases, sometimes you'll have your shortstop try to rush just a little bit, and that will mess up the play.
And, you know, you got to know your base runners, and you saw Ramirez running down the line. He's got a tender hamstring. You've got Nick Johnson, who hasn't run well. You could have just kind of maybe taken your time, but, hey, you know, you can't fault that.
So bases loaded, nobody out for Cantu. And just like last night, a poor defensive play in the first inning, giving the Marlins a chance for a big opener.
Well, yes, that was the ground ball to David Wright.
So he could have turned 2 and got Mish and the Mets out of the inning.
Instead, a run scored on that play, and then 3 more on the Cody Ross home run, and the Marlins were off to the races. Cantu hitting at .285. And Parnell falls behind him 2-0.
Well, good pitch to hit right here.
David Wright into the mound to try and provide some encouragement.
The Marlins, unlike the Mets, have flourished with the bases loaded. They less than 2 outs, batting .288 with the bases loaded.
Coughlin doubled. He's at third. Johnson walked. He's on second, and Hanley Ramirez reaching on the air at first. Cantu riding a 9-game hitting streak right now. 2 career grand slams. And Parnell with the slide. The fastball falls behind 3-0.
Well, we said in the last game against the Cubs, we saw a lot of poise with people on base for Bobby Parnell. Here in this first inning, less of it as he's been thrown into trouble quickly. Part of it his design, part the infielders.
There's a strike at the knee. Is 3-1.
Now you know you got a power hitter up here right now. Might want to look middle in. I always felt the pitcher's going to throw away. I'm looking to go the opposite field and hit an opposite field gap to the 3-run double. But then again, I wasn't willing to Covey or Barry Bonds or Al down there, Al Friedman, or cameraman.
Power guy.
Well, I'm telling you, but I would counter against you. I would still have to throw the ball away because you don't want to take a chance down and in.
Exactly.
Second time in this inning, Parnell's gotten from 3-0 back to 3-2. And Cantu takes high ball 4, and it forces in the first run of the game.
That's going to get a visit, I think, from Dan Warthen. Yep, here he comes.
So the Marlins take a 1-0 lead. Cantu's 80th run batted into the season, and the 20th time this year that a Met pitcher has either walked a batter with the bases loaded or hit a batter with the bases loaded. That just exacerbates what is already a club record 20 times this year.
Yeah, it boggles the mind. That's what it does. And then that pitch right there on 3-2 was not even close.
Gary, you said it to Parnell's defense and Pat Mish's. They both served up ground balls that could have got him out of the inning, and it just didn't. Mets did not execute the field.
So now a run is in, still nobody out. And Parnell trying to avoid a disastrous first inning as he takes on John Baker, the catcher, who's 0 for 3 in this series and remarkably just 1 for 23 against the Mets this year.
Boy, you're looking for first ball fastball here. Got a pitcher and on the ropes, just walked in a run. Oh, he even did better. He throws you a breaking ball and misses. Now he's behind 1-0. Boy, you can kind of get locked in. Looking for your pitch.
Parnell's thrown 21 pitches in this inning, still looking for his first out. And he misses badly. And now the wheels are starting to come off for Parnell.
And he's missing up, which is a place you don't want to be. You're trying to limit the damage in this inning, and it could be a huge inning. How do you do that? Well, you have a left-handed hitter who doesn't have any speed. Throw a little sinker, something down in the strike zone. Get yourself a ground ball. Maybe you can double play.
Oh, Lord.
3-0 now to Baker, and the Mets bullpen starts to get busy as Parnell is not coming close, and the rookie Toby Stoner, who has not yet made his major league debut, is starting to prepare for it. Ball 4, and Parnell forces in yet another run. 2-0 Florida. Well, here's Ronnie's inside pitch on Bobby Parnell, part of the business of baseball, brought to you by Xerox, ready for real business.
Well, we hope we're not getting Jekyll here, Jekyll and Hyde. In 2 games, he's 13 innings, no runs. Those other 4 starts, his ERA is 14.5. The poise that we saw in his last start against Chicago, his sereneness with people on base, has not been witnessed here so far. And that 2-seam sinker, which I thought would be a really good pitch for him against this ball club, he has not used.
Now Dan Uggla, still nobody out, 2 runs in, and ball 1 to Uggla. Well, Dan Warthen has already made a trip to the mound. Can't make another one without taking the pitcher out.
And Toby Stoner is not even close to being loose yet, so.
And there's a strike. Sarcastic roar of approval.
Tough game.
I've heard that before.
It could be a cruel game.
Dangerous hitter. Uggla homered last night. His 26th of the year. Hoffman foul backing out of play.
He helped him out there. That was ball 2.
You can learn from that if you're Bobby Parnell and Omar Santos, can't you? That ball's out of the zone, 1-1, but he's going after it. Let's go a little higher on this next pitch. Get yourself a strikeout.
Oh, Uggla's struck out 122 times this year. That's always been a difficulty for him. The difference this year is he's walking more. 83 walks already. 1-2. Struck him out. He went down to get him. And there finally is the first out for Bobby Parnell.
Well, this young man, when he gets ahead of the hitters, has the gifts to put people away. Good slider down in the strike zone. Ugla, not even close. When I watch Ugla hit, Keith, sometimes I think he just decides to swing before the pitches even approaches.
Well, he's definitely a free swinger.
Yep.
So 1 out, and now Cody Ross, who delivered the big blow in the first inning last night with a 3-run homer. His 21st of the year. And he takes a first pitch fastball for a strike. Ramirez at third, Cantu at second, and Baker at first. 2 runs home for the Marlins in the opening inning. Both on bases loaded walks by Bobby Parnell. To center field, not very deep. In comes Pagan, and it'll fall for a hit. Ramirez comes home as Pagan was thinking about throwing to the plate for a force play against the sore-legged Ramirez, but bobbled the ball. And so it's an RBI single for Ross, making it 3-0.
Well, here's the deke from Pagan, and a good one. But I always felt when they did that, you know what? I'm sorry. But watch Ramirez's mistake here. He's got to come down the line halfway, a little less than halfway. If the ball's caught by Pagan, he's not going to be able to score. But it's too shallow, so you come down the line, you kids. Ball drops, you walk home.
Let me ask you a question. If he feels that cleanly out of hop, you think he has a chance?
He has a chance to get him.
Here's Cameron Maybin, 3 runs in, still only 1 out.
And we'll take a look at all the runners here. You see, everybody's halfway except Hanley. Not to be confused with Headley.
That's in San Diego. Off the right side, and that'll go into the crowd.
You can even get that in when we don't play San Diego.
I can't resist. I cannot resist.
You know, for a vast part of our audience,
I know,
doesn't remember Blazing Saddles.
I understand. And trust me, folks, just a couple of good scenes in there. You haven't missed much. No offense, Mr. Brooks.
Oh, Alex Karras punching the horse.
That was good. And
the campfire.
What was her name? Lily von Stolpe. Madeline Kahn.
Madeline Kahn.
She stole the show.
The late Madeline Kahn. What a great comedic actress she was.
2-1 to Maybin, who homered in the first game of this series into the apple in center field, and he swings and misses at the slider. 2-2.
Her role was that of Marlena Dietrich. You see the pitch count there, Ronnie. Not very good.
Never want more balls than strikes.
You certainly don't want 34 pitches with 1 out in the first inning. Maybin, a tough guy to double up, and he strikes him out for the second out. So 2 strikeouts in the inning for Parnell to go with 3 walks.
Well, just good fastball in. That's the 2-seam fastball we were talking about before. That's going to be very effective against these right-handed hitters for the Marlins. They like the ball up in the strike zone.
Threw that ball right by him.
So 2 out now. Sean West, who's just 1 for 24 at the plate, and he takes a strike. West looking for his first big league RBI. It's got to be a good feeling for any pitcher when he gets a turn at bat before he even takes the mound.
I mean, unbelievable. I remember the game here when Pedro made his return to Citi Field. He made it as a hitter. He hit in the first inning.
Is it at all disconcerting, though, when you're sitting there in the dugout waiting to take the mound and all of a sudden you got a hit?
Absolutely not. You are just so happy that your team has scored some runs, and in fact, you really want to get greedy here, and you're saying to yourself, somehow make contact, get something to fall in.
Well, I got to believe he'll be taking here, hopefully to get a 3-1 count. Those pitchers, they helped him out.
Well, that's honestly that's a manager, and and the third base coach have to put that on to take the pitcher out of that kind of play.
It is a guy out there struggling, you got to put the take sign 2 and 1 on.
Especially when you want the 24.
And West goes down swinging, so Parnell strikes out 3 in the inning, yells at himself into his glove. He gives up 3.
Loved them.
Amazing Moments bricks are on sale now. A new offering of bricks will be installed along the first and third base sides of the Jackie Robinson Rotunda for the 2010 season. Order your FanWalk brick today at Mets.com/FanWalk. All proceeds benefit charity through the Mets Foundation. Here's your Mets starting lineup tonight, brought to you by Geico. Carlos Beltran sits after playing the first 2 games. The plan is to play him 3 games over the weekend in Philadelphia. We'll see how that works out. So Nick Evans gets a rare start in left field. Pagan and Castillo have been hot at the top of the batting order. Fernando Tatis hasn't started in 8 days. He's back in there tonight against the lefty, Sean West.
Well, Sean West has had a similar kind of season to Bobby Parnell in the sense that he's been really great at home, but has really struggled on the road despite a great start here at Citi Field. But those 6 wins are second in the National League to Jay Happ, who has 10. For a
Cooler
rookie.
night here at Citi Field. Wind blowing in from right field.
Not that cold.
A little bit of a nip in the air.
Not that cold.
Well, they might be Marlin fans up from Florida.
Right. I mean, come on now.
Angel Pagan riding a 9-game hitting streak, hitting .405 over the 9 games.
Oh, gosh.
And West gets even 1-1. Mets are facing West for the 3rd time this year. In each of his first 2 starts, he's allowed them just 1 run. A no decision and a 2-1 win on August 25th in Florida. West he began the year in the minor leagues. He spent more time in the minor leagues before being recalled in early August, and has pitched much better since coming back.
Yeah, he's a big guy that doesn't throw that hard. You know, he's in that 90-91 range. Has a good changeup that he's using a lot more now after he's come up from the minor leagues, and a big kind of sweeping hook.
Just 23 years old, born in Houston, Texas.
Another Texan. Everything's big down there.
Past the mound and into center field, and Pagan's got a 10-game hitting streak. He has had a great knack for first inning hits all season.
And the forward Marlin defense. Well, we always known that they're not a great defensive club. 90 errors right there will tell you all the tale. 4th most in the National League. Mabum gives them a little better defense out there in that outfield. He's the center fielder they've always kind of lacked. Ross, of course, is back in that corner outfield spot where he belongs.
Here's Luis Castillo, 6th in the National League in batting. And you know, with Maben, I think we've seen some of the flashes of what the Marlins have seen in him in this series.
Yeah, Maven's great speed, so much better. Had that big 2-run home run into the apple here at Citi Field.
I loved you guys last night describing the flapping arm on his double.
The windmill? Like your merry-go-round.
Exactly. He had a little trouble making that turn at first base, had to get that arm spinning.
He's got it's almost like he's putting a blinker on when he's got to make that left turn.
2-0 to Castillo as the Mets try and respond in the bottom of the first.
We're just jealous we can't run like Cameron, that's all. But you know, Ramirez has been better defensively this year. I mean, 53 straight games without an error. His first 3 years he had 72.
Cody Ross has played good defense in the outfield for them. 3-1 now to Castillo with David Wright on deck. David's still looking to get on track. Stuck in an 0 for 14 right now. Three and 2 to Castillo. That's another one on the list, by the way. 3-1 strikes that Castillo has taken this year.
Sometimes from the right-hand side, you won't see it as often. He can be a little more aggressive.
Pagan probably will be in motion here. Nope.
Not running. And Castillo grounds a double play ball right to Ugla. Ramirez with the easy turn. 4-6-3 on the double play. So just like that, West has 2 outs.
Well, it's just been one of those years. You know, you're down 3 runs. You got a guy who doesn't strike out. You cannot second guess a manager for not letting Pagan go 3 and 2.
You know, the only problem there is that West in his first 5 starts did not give up any, did not get any double plays, but in his last 12 now he's given up 10 double play balls as he's gone more to the changeup and sinker.
So 2 out and nobody on. Here's David Wright. Still 5th in the National League in batting, but 0 for his last 14. And he has had some really rough at bats the last few days.
Well, he's got a left-hander tonight, and he wears out lefties, but he has had real difficulty, Gary. We've seen the last 2 nights, particularly since he came back from the beaning with that hard slider from a right-hander.
Early this season, the Mets were scoring often in the first inning. 11 of the first 16 games they scored in the first inning, but just 13 of the last 55 games. Now, you know, you could attribute a lot of that to the lack of Jose Reyes, because you know, Reyes is such a catalyst. And yet, you look at Pagan and the frequency with which he's gotten on base in the first inning, and it doesn't really compute.
No, it's the big guys in the middle that were out. You know, Beltran and Delgado.
Well, even though Pagan can get hits, it's obvious that he can't manufacture runs the way that Reyes can, with the stealing of the base, getting over on the ground out and scoring on a sac fly.
David drives one to right center, but Ross easing back, and that retires the side. After 1, 3-0 Florida. only 2 players in Major League history with 13,000 plate appearances for one franchise.
I got my guesses.
I don't believe it's going to be anybody that lost any time or service because of World War II.
That's a good one.
Military service is going to kill a lot of guys. Take Musial out of that.
That's one of my guesses.
That was one of my guesses too.
Yep. But Stan only went to 145.
Yeah. So
1 year.
Right.
Here's my other guess.
That's a good one.
Could be. Yeah. Chris Coughlin led off the first inning with a double to left center. What looked like a single, he hustled into a double. And now leading off in the second after the Marlins batted around in the first inning. A pair of bases loaded walks and a run scoring hit for Cody Ross, making it 3-0 Florida. In the air to left, and Evans drifting. That's the first down.
Well, just like Pat missed last night, this is going to be a real test of character here for Bobby Parnell. How he comes out of that first inning, which of course was very shaky. Some of his fault, some of the fielder's fault, but this is one of those games just like Mitch last night where he's going to have to stop this vaunted Florida Marlin attack, give his Mets teammates a chance to get back in this game.
Nick Johnson walked and scored his first time up. Well, I would imagine if you are a team in the race, playing a team out of the race, there's nothing that pleases you more than getting a crooked number on the board in the first inning and kind of sending that non-contending team back onto their heels.
Well, I think what happens is when you have a lot of success as a team, then if something like this happens, it doesn't bother you because you say, you know what, come on, we're going to score runs tonight. Don't worry about it. We're going to be back in this game. But if you've been just the opposite, and you've had a lot of games where you haven't had that, you start to go, oh no, not one of these nights again. And those are the things you have to fight when you're on a team that's had a tough year.
When you're on a winner run, and you've been on winners and losers, when you're on a winning team, you get down early, you always feel, hey guys, we got a chance to come back on this one.
But Keith, is it different? I mean, you've been on teams that have not contended. Is it different in September than it would be, say, in June or July, when you fall behind early on a team that's not doing so well?
Yes, absolutely, because you can see the light at the end of the tunnel. You know, these guys are they're ready to go home, and you know, you're going nowhere. I mean, it's just, you're going out there, and hopefully everybody has pride in their performance, and I'm sure they all do. But this is kind of a little different program for young David Wright, the guys that have been here in this ball club.
Drive to center field by Johnson, and Pagan is there.
So, you can take a positive out of any of the worst situations. You know, you can do something to learn from, and you go home and say, boy, I never want to experience that again.
What happens on a good team is that through the course of the year, and when you get to September, you have these building blocks of success that you can use as equity and say, you know what, remember that game in May when we were down by 6, we came back? And it's just the opposite for teams that are losing teams, because now all their confidence has been chipped away at, slow but sure. And you get to September, and you do not have a lot of good memories of comebacks or come from behind wins or walk-off wins and the such.
Here's Hanley Ramirez hitting one hard and just past David and into left field. So Wright, who made a diving stop on a similar play last night, unable to come up with that one. And a 2-out single for Ramirez, his 179th hit of the year.
Well, this is a bullet right here.
Awfully long and big swing, but can I tell you, he gets to the baseball and this ball just by Wright.
Keith, you said something very interesting about, you know, for David, new experience and a lesson. I don't want to feel this way again. As Cantu lifts one along the left field line, and Evans is there. We'll talk more about that next inning. As Cantu is retired to end the inning, a hit and one left. We go to the bottom of the second, 3-0 Florida. go to the bottom of the second inning. The Mets down 3-0. And Jeff Francoeur will lead off against Sean West. Francoeur 1 for 5 in this series and just 4 for his last 28. Jeff's now had over 200 at bats as a Met, so we've got to watch him for a pretty lengthy period of time. Keith, have you seen any substantial adjustments he's made since he's been here?
It looks like the same Mr. Francoeur to me.
Into center field, and the Mets have their second hit of the night. A leadoff single for Francoeur.
You know, he's got a long swing. He doesn't ever get cheated up there. He likes to get out of that box quick in a hurry. And Ronnie and I had conversations. See how he wraps that bat around his head? The top of his bat really comes forward. Now that's a long way for that bat to come around to get into the hitting zone, where they call it today squaring up. Oh boy, I never heard of squaring up's the term, I guess. Whatever makes you happy. But
you didn't know that hitting passed you by, did you?
Yeah, exactly. They reinvented it. How did I hit 300? Anyway, you're venting.
You know, it is an old expression that the object of hitting is taking a round ball and a round bat and hitting it square. Is there any relationship?
Gosh, don't confuse me. I just look fastball and hit it.
Sorry, too much geometry.
You know, I was thinking about Francoeur though. His at bats, what we've seen is very similar to a lot of the bats he took when he was with the Braves. What you didn't know though, that what a fine outfielder he is, in my estimation, of going after the ball. We knew about his great arm, but his character in the dugout.
Well, the one thing I see,
in the locker room.
I know I was kind of got off the beaten track, but to be succinct here about Francoeur, he's got a long swing, and when he's red hot and everything's working, he's a streak hitter. When he goes a little off because of that long swing, then he can start swinging at bad pitches. And Ronnie, you mentioned you can get him out without them strike up and down the ladder
when he's struggling.
When he's struggling, but you know, when he's hot, he's like. I mean, Mookie was that. When Mookie hit the ball 1 inch off the ground when he was red hot, you couldn't get Mookie out.
It just seems as though over the last month that maybe he's been working a few more deeper counts than we ever saw him with the Braves or when he first got here.
Well, that's what they've tried to do. That's for sure, to make him more patient.
Tatis fouls it away.
It's always the battle, though, with aggressive person and aggressive personality.
You got the same guy over there, Ugla, who said, you know, his interview, post-game interview the other night. I don't know if it was the first or second game with Kevin, that, you know, I wanted to be more patient this year. My walks are up. You know, I feel I've lost some of my aggressiveness. Yeah. It's a fine line when you put the throttle, you know, you pull the reins on some of these guys that are big full swingers.
Some horses just like to go to the front.
Exactly.
2-2 to Tatis, and he fouls it away. I was raising the point last inning. Of course, I did it with 2 outs. I apologize. About David Wright. And you had said that about this year that it's an experience he's never had before. And it's interesting because it sparked this thought going back to 2006 when the Mets fell short against the Cardinals. And David and Willie Randolph both told the story of walking back to the hotel after the game and David saying, I never want to feel this way again, and Willie saying this will be a learning experience for you as Tatis strikes out. And then virtually the same conversation after the Mets blew the big lead in 07. And you just wonder, after this number of disappointments, whether they're small disappointments in that the Mets had a great season in 2006 but fell short, or a large disappointment in 07, or this mind-boggling season in 09, how does that wear on a player if it goes through those negative experiences year after year? And I'm sure that, you know, in David's mind, he perceives them all as negative experiences. Not getting to the World Series when he thought they should have, not getting to the postseason each of the last 2 years, and then this, you know, incomprehensible season this year.
Well, I think the last 2 years were more difficult to swallow than this year, Gary. You've got, you know, the injuries to the key players, and you know, you hate to keep bringing it up, but I'm sorry, it is a factor. They lost, you know, 3 key players in the lineup, and it hurt. it's hard for anybody to replace 3 players. If anything, for me, if you want to look on the bright side, well, can it get any worse when you hit rock bottom? There's only one way you can go, it's up. Well, maybe this is the end of it. And next spring it's going to it's going to turn around. It can't get any. What happened to us when we fell this ball club this year? Gosh, it's like, what have we done to deserve this? It can't happen again. We're going to go forward, and that's probably the way they're going to look at it. But they still got to go out there and they got to play 162 games.
Yeah, I mean, talking to David as far back as spring training, he was concerned. He said, "Look, I don't want to be known as a guy who was on teams that fell short."
You don't want that on your baseball card.
Exactly. And I just wonder whether there's a cumulative effect after a number of years on an individual player to experience those disappointments, or in this case, a case where they were just about never in it, and be able to say in your own mind, hey, I'm a championship player and I am a guy who will be part of the championship team. Does negativity start to creep in?
Well, I think the 800-pound gorilla is that the only way to get rid of that is to win a championship. That's what this town demands. It's what this town feels it deserves. And when you had a chance in 06, and maybe that was your magical year, and you come up short, those 2 successive body blows the last 2 seasons, yeah, that can take a lot out of you.
The other side of the coin is the general manager making the decisions on the personnel. And when does the general manager say, okay, have I gone too far with this group? Do I need to make changes? Right. And that's why they pay the Omar the big bucks. But that's got to be part of Omar's thought process. Does this team need a face change?
Well, I think we've seen through the history of time, especially in the last 10 years of free agency, that putting together a group that are all-star players doesn't necessarily mean you're going to have a team that's a world championship team. They've got to gel.
I mean, that's strike 3 right there. It's already apparent just with Beltran back, even though they've lost the 2 games with Beltran, what a difference it's made in the lineup, and he hasn't been there most of the year.
West strikes out 3 in a row, and the Marlins lead 3-0 after 2. Think the Mets should do in the coming years? Should they continue to build around the current core or trade some core players? You be the GM. Text 57508 or visit sny.tv to express your opinion.
Oh, already.
We already have votes. She's texting.
A or B? A or B? John Baker leads off in the 3rd inning. Baker drew a bases loaded walk his first time up, one of 2 that Parnell issued in the 1st inning, where the Marlins scored their 3 runs. Baker in his first full year in the big leagues with the Marlins, and
with a lot of young catchers, particularly, their performance falls off late in the season. But they've given Baker enough rest, and he has shown enough at the plate that he is actually hitting better since the All-Star break than he did before.
And I think the key is they've given him enough rest. Paulino's responded with some power when he plays, so they've been able to play him a couple of times a week. John Baker from Berkeley, very smart young man, has been able to handle this pitching staff.
Berkeley Hills. Well, he hasn't played much against the left-hander, and the other side, the flip side of that coin is if you're going to develop him as your everyday catcher, you need to get at-bats off left-handers too. I don't know what decision they've made, but he's got less than 100 at-bats against left-hand pitchers.
They like Paulino, and I think they've enjoyed the platoon this year, and it would be surprising if they didn't bring them back as a tandem next year.
Oh.
Baker down swinging, and Parnell has his 4th strikeout. 1 out.
Well, it's a tale of two kinds of innings here for Baker. When you watch him, he's got all the pitches to get people out. That slider down and in was nasty to Baker. Key, though, is for him is throwing strikes early so he can get to that slider.
If Parnell throws a breaking ball like that 80% of the time in his starts, he's going to be wicked. He's going to be a strikeout pitcher. That was as good a breaking ball as you're going to see.
Now Dan Uggla, who struck out his first time, and takes a slider low and away.
So over the years, how many pitchers you see come up, Ron, that have great arms and great stuff? Oh, Washington came back.
Hit in the air, deep left field, forget it. That is way out of here and into the second deck. Dan Uggla cracks his 27th home run of the year, and now the Marlins lead 4-0. A no-doubter from Uggla, hitting it in that second deck where not a whole lot of home runs have gone. And now it's back.
I'd have to keep that ball if I was in the stands up there. I was a young kid.
Well, I know they used to always do it at Wrigley, but now they do it at every ballpark, don't they? Fastball right down the middle. 1-0 count to Uggla.
Well, he's a fastball hitter.
That's a serious pop.
Looking for that ball middle in.
Trying that down and away. Well, it was down, but it was middle of the plate. When it's 1-0, Uggla's looking for that ball middle of the plate in.
Full arm extension right down the pipe.
And this guy right here is the same. Ross is almost the same kind of hitter.
Tony Ross hit a pop fly single into center field to get a run in the first inning. You know, the thing about Met fans throwing balls back after opponents hit home runs, they never had much of a chance to do that at Shea Stadium because there were so few seats in fair territory. Now, virtually every home run is grabbed by a fan unless it goes into the out.
I would take the boos and hang on to the ball.
You always take the boos.
Come on, hang on. Come on.
Keep it.
Went in the upper deck. Who'd have thought?
Yeah, see, you got the pub now.
Uh-oh.
Ross loses the bat. It skips off the dugout and into the crowd. And Ross is down swinging for the second out. There's a nice helicopter shot by Ross. Fortunately, it hit the dugout roof first. Took a little sting out of it.
This is the 5th strikeout for Parnell. Boy.
Nobody hurt. Ross gets his bat back, and the young fan gets a trade.
Oh, why not me? It hit me too.
Bouncing ball for Hernandez to handle, and he throws out Maven to end the inning, but Dan Uggla's second deck shot to left makes it 4-0 Florida. River, across the Brooklyn Bridge and the Manhattan Bridge.
That building with the green top, that's the Woolworth building.
That's near down
famous.
where you're at.
Yeah.
You're getting down close to downtown.
Your AT&T high-speed pitch. Bobby Parnell is topped out at 96. Sean West at 94. West with the upper hand tonight, leading 4-0 as we go to the bottom of the third. It is an awfully pretty sight.
I do miss the city at times.
You should come visit every now and again.
Once in a blue moon.
Anderson Hernandez leads off the home third, and he punches one foul. Hernandez 0 for 5 in this series, hitting at .255 for the year.
Sometimes I spend some time there, Keith, because I have some friends that live where you used to live on 2nd Avenue. That neighborhood's really changed. It's gotten very younger up and down 2nd Avenue.
It's all that mid-downtown area, the midtown, that's all corporate offices. A lot of young kids coming out of college.
And you know what they all have in common? They're all sharing apartments. 7 and 8 and 10 of them in apartments built for,
Yeah, of course.
for 2.
You know what else they share on 2nd Avenue? A love for Guinness. It's packed up and down that street. There's Joe Willie.
Places of business. Well, he used to ply his trade right across the parking lot.
Did you hear his comments on Mark Sanchez?
No.
He was just saying that he watched him and he thinks he's going to be one of the good ones. So whenever Joe Willie talks, you kind of listen.
Yep. There was nothing greater than watching Joe Namath lead a drive across the infield at Shea Stadium. Right on the skid portion of the infield.
That's right.
It was that certain something about that. We used to stand in. They used to have standing room like right behind home plate in one of the end zones, and so you could see him coming in through the infield, leading the drive. It was just awesome. What a sight. Hanley Ramirez handles it cleanly and throws out Hernandez for the first out.
Well, he had such great footwork. I remember some of those old films when he's coming down through that infield at Shea, that he'd go with those beautiful white shoes, but as he was going back with that footwork, he'd kick up the dirt in the infield, and it'd be like a cloud of dust as he threw those bullets to Don Maynard, etc.
They never watered that infield during the football games.
Right.
He had a great quick release, Joe. And my new home in Florida, we're going to move into once the season's over. My wife and I, and Joe is within half a mile of us.
Oh, nice.
One of my neighbors.
There's Bobby Parnell batting for the first time. Parnell 1 for 7 at the plate this season. The Mets have not been able to solve Sean West. Not so far tonight, and not in the 2 other times they have faced him this year.
I've seen him pitch a couple of games that weren't against the Mets, just on the computer. And where he struggles is when he gets into a little bit of trouble with runners on base, he tends to start to get very tentative about throwing strikes. And that's when he can get into trouble. But when he has everything working, he keeps that ball down in the strike zone. It's up there.
Gets Parnell upstairs for his 4th strikeout, first time through the batting order. So 2 out and nobody on.
9 strikeouts in the game. Speaking of strikeouts, Gary, this is a very important date in 69 Met history, is it not?
Well, it's the day that the Mets, for the first time in their history, ever went in first place after the first game of a doubleheader against Montreal. They had just finished sweeping the Cubs, a series here at Shea, and after they beat the Expos the next day, they were in first place, and they never fell out.
Never went back.
12-inning game in the game 1, 3-2. Jim McAndrews went 11 innings. 4 hit ball, 2 runs, 7 strikeouts, and then Nolan Ryan in the nightcap completed the sweep, went 3 hits, 1 run, 11 punch-outs. Rusty went 0 for 5 for the Expos in the doubleheader.
That's good to point that out. 2-0 to Pagan.
Well, the Mets fans probably know the entire lineup for the Mets. What were some of the people that played on Montreal in that doubleheader?
Well, that was their first season, remember, in 1969.
They had Ty Klein in center field. Rusty was in right. Ron Fairley played first. Mac Jones was in left field. The old Brave.
Pagan draws a 2-out walk.
Here's one of my favorites. Coco LeBoy was their third baseman.
Well, the Expos played the first game in their history at Shea Stadium the first day of that season, 1969, and they beat the Mets 11-10 in that first game. Wow. Coco LeBoy hit a home run. And a relief pitcher for the Expos, Dan McGinn, also hit a home run. Now, the Mets at that point in their history had never won an opening day game. That was their 8th straight opening day loss. So they won a World Series before they ever won an opening day game.
And since then, correct me if I'm wrong, they've been unbelievable on opening day games.
Castillo bounced into a double play his first time. And takes the off-speed pitch away, 1-1.
Later in my career, I got to play with Gary Sutherland, Rusty, of course, Ron Fairley in St. Louis.
They have, I'm not sure if he was with them that first season, the guy that the PA announcer at Jerry Park loved, John Cabela.
No, it was, they had Brand and John Bateman were their catchers. They both came over from Houston.
In that first game, both Jim McAndrew and Mike Wegener both went 11 innings.
Wegener struck out 15 Mets.
That's the last time a pitcher went 11 innings.
I know, exactly.
I mean, honestly, when do you think it was? It's got to be 10, 15 years, right?
Oh, at least
11 innings?
At least.
I mean, there might be a Roy Halladay start in there somewhere that I'm not familiar with.
Bobby Wine was their starting shortstop, the old Philly, for the Expos that year.
1-2 to Castillo. And Henry Ramirez handles another one. Side retired. 3 in the books now here at Citi Field. 4-0 Marlins. We'll be back, but first here's Matt Cerrone from MetsBlog.com at the Verizon studio for a quick update on what the fans are thinking. Brandon Tierney as they go head-to-head on the latest from Gang Green and Big Blue as they gear up for opening week. In the Wheelhouse, weekdays at 5:30 only on SNY. Sean West up for the second time, struck out his first trip. 4-0 Florida as we start the 4th. Bobby Parnell gets ahead 0-2. Parnell has struck out 5 over the first 3 innings, but he's given up 4 runs, 4 hits.
3 walks.
And 2 of those walks came with the bases full. Out to right center field toward the gap, and West has his first major league extra base hit. It hops into the bullpen, a ground rule double for Sean West. Just his 2nd hit and his first double.
Nice swing. I mean, this Parnell throws hard. Down and away fastball, and you gotta get a smile on your face.
Would be happier if we did that with the bases loaded back in the first.
Well, when you're 1 for 25, you're just happy to get a hit. But he drove this ball to right center. Pagan correctly playing shallow with the pitcher, and that ball hopped over the fence.
So the Marlins have their 5th hit.
He won't throw it back.
Well, it's a ground rule double.
So you can only throw back home runs? I don't understand the rules. Me, if I'm a kid and somebody hits a ball to me or throws a ball to me, I am putting that ball in my pocket and nobody's getting it.
Exactly. I got to ask you a question, RJ.
Yeah.
All your National League years, when you hit,
Coughlin lines a base hit. West will be stopped at third, and the Marlins have first and third and nobody out. Second hit tonight for Coughlin.
what pitcher did you face when you went up there and you got an idea up there?
Yeah.
When you saw his stuff, you went, oh my goodness.
Two people. Nolan.
Because
Nolan threw one fastball they never saw.
Okay.
So that was a little scary, not seeing the baseball. And the other was Randy Johnson, his first couple years in Montreal, because he was, what do you say, wild as a March hare?
Yes.
And he had no idea where the ball was going. So I would get in there on tender feet, ready to bail at any time.
The exceptional fastball got your attention.
Just the exceptional fastball, but the ability to be a little wild. Nolan early in my career threw one at my head, so after that he had me and I was done.
Probably did it on purpose.
Yeah, I'm sure he did.
Would be the first. Nick Johnson skips out of the way for ball one.
Let me just flip this pitcher and he'll be in my back pocket the rest of his career. My career.
And I was.
I get up with the bases loaded, he's finished.
Johnson has walked and scored and lined out to center field. The Mets have the infield back at double play depth, despite already being down 4-0. And Parnell falls behind 2-0. Now it's 3-0.
There's something that Bobby does. You see the Nationals got another run against Joe Blanton and the Phillies. He's got a very distinct front shoulder that when he struggles a little, it will come out a little too early. He's got to really concentrate on staying close as long as he can.
Well, he walks Nick Johnson for the second time, and that loads him up with nobody out. Fourth walk given up by Parnell. That'll get Lance Broadway up in the Mets bullpen.
New York Mets baseball on SNY is brought to you by Xerox, document services provider to the Mets. Xerox, ready for real business.
Jared, did you enjoy your day off yesterday? Or would you call it a day off? You were in the truck.
I was in the truck. I learned a lot. I got to watch our producer Greg Picker and our director Bill Webb and all the other guys in the truck do their job. And I did realize one thing for certain after watching the complexity of what they do. I'd rather be right where I am.
Well, it makes you think that I'm sure that they could do our job. I know we can't do theirs.
I totally agree with that. There's no way in the world that I could do what they do.
And they do it so quickly, too. I mean, we take for granted that we get these beautiful replays after something happens. But once you're in that truck a couple times, you realize how much goes into it to get it looped back so we can see it.
And they make it look very easy.
Hanley Ramirez 1 for 2 tonight.
Bases loaded, nobody out. And he takes ball one. There's one thing that I learned being in the truck that I kind of knew intellectually before, but I didn't really realize viscerally until I was down there, and it hit me between the eyes. There is a camera that shoots into our booth up here.
It's always on.
The guys in the truck can watch it all the time.
I understand.
So no matter what you're doing, Big Brother's watching.
So don't pick your nose.
Something like that. 2-0 to Ramirez.
And we thought 1984 was just a nice year we had on building the team. That's become our life now.
I knew something that you didn't know, because Webby always made me very much aware of a long time ago that camera is Big Brother watching.
Well, I also know that Bill Webb tends to there's the camera that shoots into our booth. We call it the RoboCam.
And it moves around. So there you go.
I know that Bill Webb says things into your ear to try and make you laugh. I didn't necessarily know that before.
He's usually successful.
Yes, he does.
So when you see Keith start laughing for absolutely no reason, that's usually why. See all these secrets that got unearthed for me yesterday.
That's right. Bill's a load of laughs. He's a real funny guy.
Nothing funny for Bobby Parnell right now. Already down 4-0 in this game. Two to Ramirez, and Hanley takes it low and a full count. So Parnell has already walked in 2 runs. Well, here's some of that what that camera has caught this year.
Look at that boiler on it. You're on a diet.
It's a busy offseason for you. Ramirez strokes one into shallow right. That'll fall for a hit. West trots home. The throw goes to second, and it's time for a force play on Nick Johnson. So Jeff Francoeur unleashes a bullet to Anderson Hernandez. Take away a hit from Hanley Ramirez. It's a 9-6 fielder's choice as a run comes home to make it 5-0.
Oh, that's embarrassing. And that's a big apology to your teammate right there.
He's trying to win the batting title.
Got to slide.
Didn't bother sliding.
He's very surprised by all the runners read on that. That was a stone cold hit off the bat.
The only guy who read it right was the pitcher West running in third.
Exactly.
He was coming home all the way.
Well, it's the right call.
Second base umpire Scott Barry right on top of the play. Nick Johnson a little embarrassed. That's the first out of the inning. Jorge Cantu the batter, and he takes ball 1. Cantu walked with the bases loaded in the first inning, fly down in the second. So Ramirez gets an RBI, but not a hit. It's 95 RBIs for Hanley Ramirez. It scoops away from Santos. Ramirez goes to second, but Coghlan holding at third, and that's that short distance from home plate to the backstop coming into play again there that Coghlan did not break for home.
Well, Santos set up inside. The ball's way away. Didn't get in front of it. Tough play for Santos.
Again, Keith, that's that ground, that fastball that they just hang on to too late. Just throw it right into the ground. Ramirez, with those bad hamstrings, makes the second base. And sometimes played at an entirely different level than I remember.
So 2 in scoring position, the infield in, 2-0 the count, and Cantu takes ball 3.
That's 6 wild pitches now for Bobby Parnell this season.
So if Hanley Ramirez winds up hitting 359, he'll say, Nick, it cost me 360.
359 will still give him the title, though.
Infield in.
Cantu swinging 3-0. Right checks the runner. And that's the second out. There's a big out for Parnell. There's Cantu up there hacking on 3-0.
Boy, I'll tell you, if he can get out of this jam with only 1 run. Marlins were poised just to bust it open.
So now 2 out, and John Baker the batter. Baker walked with the bases loaded in the first, struck out in the third, 0 for 1.
This is a huge at bat here because you got to get Baker out, keep those 2 runs for scoring, and can't walk him because Uggla's the next batter.
Right now, Parnell just trying to stay in the game. A base hit could end his tenure. Santos stops that one, 1-0. Caps and jerseys this year than ever before.
Well, that green cap is has Murphy written on the side, so they're taking advantage maybe of the luck of the Irish green.
I just wish I had blue eyes like that.
Sorry.
Blue's my favorite color. I got shortchanged. I got the brown.
Your mom had blue eyes, didn't she?
Mom had like hazel. My brother has hazel. Does anybody care?
Blue eye.
Obviously you do.
I got boring brown.
Baker takes an uppercut. 1-2.
Baker has been befuddled by that slider so far from Bobby Parnell. Looking at his bat saying, come on, let's make some contact.
Got holes in that bat?
Yeah,
Got a Swiss cheese bat.
Lead off that one. 2-2. And a tough working night for Bobby Parnell. It started with a 40-pitch first inning that cost him 3 runs. And Baker swings and misses, and that'll do it for the Marlins in the 4th.
More blue eyes.
Not strong enough to stop the game, so we'll continue on into the bottom of the 4th with the Marlins up 5-0. Right now, let's take a look at the view from the Pepsi porch with Kevin Burkhardt.
See porch have a retractable dome at any point. Be a good time for it right about now. You know, I had a conversation, a pretty honest one, with Howard Johnson before the game talking about David Wright, and we've talked about it. I think a lot about the offseason plan for this Mets team is certainly finding power, but you have to answer the question first, and what kind of power does David Wright gives you, because that fits in the overall equation. And Howard told me, look, this year, as a staff, we got together, we talked with David, and we wanted to make him a better hitter. And the goal was to go the other way a lot more, especially in RBI type situations. And quite honestly, we've had mixed results with it. So we have already talked about some different things we're going to implement in the offseason to kind of change things around next year. And I just kind of find that fascinating, Keith. I guess the question for me to you would be, I mean, you know, did you ever go through that in your career where you just radically changed some of the things you were doing at the plate? Because clearly they did that with David this year. Some worked, some didn't. And now they may be apparently doing that type of stuff again to try and maybe get the power back. I mean, we've seen other guys, you know, we saw Dan Uggla, he hits him out of here. Mark Reynolds, guys like that. So very curious to see what the offseason is like for David Wright. Keith, you ever do anything like that during your career?
I was never ever came close to hitting 30 home runs, Kev.
Well, that's true. I just meant in terms of radically changing your approach, say. You know.
I would never change my approach, never alter my swing. Try to improve on the swing, but your swing is your swing. It's what you when you grow up as a kid. There's a base hit by David up the middle.
That breaks an 0 for 15 skid for David.
You know, you have your swing. You can make some adjustments, minor adjustments. But the way David was taught to swing, and there's Dave right there. He likes that ball down. You know, that's kind of you're hardwired. It's difficult to make a change. I agree with Ralph. I can do a lot of things Ralph said, but I can't teach you how to hit. And that looks like me right there in a follow through. That's probably a linea right there, a line drive somewhere.
Those are some very nice looking forearms. Jeff Francoeur fouls it off.
I just think the concern is, now you got another factor too. You got a much bigger ballpark. David drove that ball to right center field a lot in Old Shea, and they're not going out anymore. He's got the Mo zone there that goes back, even though it's only 370. 378 is 380. That's a long way. And it kind of concaves back further.
Well, Keith, let me ask you this. I mean, I think that this park has played a lot like Shea in terms of during the warmer months, the ball, I think, jumped out of here a lot of nights. I mean, is it possible that earlier in the year some of the guys got discouraged because of the ballpark, you know, looking as big as it is and the ball going nowhere, and by the time the ball did start to jump, their mindset was already, it's not going to get out of here? Is that a part of this at all?
It could be. I think it's affected David. David has talked about it pretty honestly in the papers about right field, that it's not like Shea. But I see from David this year, as Francoeur hits a rope to left, that's going to get in the gap.
Ogden unable to cut it off. Right goes to third. He's going to be held up there by Razor Shine. So Francoeur 2 for 2. That's his 25th double of the year. The Mets have something going here in the fourth.
Well, Francoeur, fastball right down the pipe. And, you know, West, that first time through the order, I thought got away with a lot of pitches down the middle. And the second time through the order here in the middle of this lineup, they're making him pay. But getting back to David, what I've seen from David, Kev, is a lot of hang time on his balls out in right field, the balls that used to go out. And then I think it affected him mentally, and I think he just started feeling and touching the ball when he goes to the opposite field, not aggressively trying to drive it. And that's the difference I've seen with David as far as him going the opposite field, which is his strength. He's always had difficulty in. Every hitter doesn't like the ball in. And David likes the ball down. But what I've seen, and whether it's the Mo zone or not, and whether it's that right field that's just not carrying like it did at Shea, it's not. Trust me, because David hasn't been able to do it. And I think that got into his head early, and I see him feeling instead of driving that ball away. And that's to me has been the big difference. So
here's the part that confuses me, Keith. I mean, people have talked so much about David and the effect that this ballpark has had on him. He's hit 5 home runs in this ballpark. He's hit 3 home runs on the road this year, and that's playing games in Philadelphia and Cincinnati. Great home run hitters ballparks.
I agree, and you know, it's hard to turn it off and on. All of a sudden, you know, I go to Wrigley Field when blowing out, and I'm going to do this all of a sudden. Or look at Colorado, all those years where they had the numbers there and they go on the road and they couldn't hit. And you just can't hit for one stadium or hit for a home field and then go on the road and change. That's how you get in bad habits.
So do you think it's a matter of saying to yourself, okay, I'm not going to hit home runs, I'm going to try and hit for as high an average as I can?
Well, I don't want.
Is it as simple as that?
David can do that and drive the ball. I don't want singles from David.
Well, we've seen him at 325 and hit 30 home runs in a season. He did that 2 years ago.
Absolutely. And you can get doubles, drive the ball in the outfield. It's going to be very interesting next year to see which way it shakes. Coming back for the second year in this ballpark. I mean, you look at it, Gary, where the Mo zone is, the 378 sign, and that's in the gap. You go back another, that's 388, 390 where it says Modell's. That's a long poke.
No question.
That is a long poke.
But if he hits that same ball in Philadelphia, it's an easy home run.
Yep.
0-2 to Tatis with 2 in scoring position, and he bounces one foul.
I will say my advice to coaches of good young players who've had great years like David Wright is one of the things you should do is leave well alone at times. Good players are, if they're struggling a little, they're only 1 inch away from being where they're back where they were, not a mile away. I saw it happen with Dwight Gooden when they tried to reinvent the wheel and make him throw sinker balls in spring training. That was a disaster. David has, he has a track record of doing some unbelievable things for 4 years in a row. I think, personally, this is my feeling now, that if you are a good young player who's had great years, they usually are their best coach. They know how to coach themselves. They know how to get out of slumps. You need a little tweaking, a little help, but it's not a lot, or you're not a great player.
Tatis pops another one into foul ground. Johnson watches that go out of play. Well, the other thing about Wright's season this year, in addition to the high strikeouts and the lack of power, is that the high batting average has been terrific, but it's been a roller coaster high batting average. He has had some unbelievable hot streaks where he's gone 14 for 23, but he's also had some very large troughs, much more than we used to see with him in the past. And you would think that a guy who is trying to hit for average and trying to cut down his swing and not worry about power would not have those long offers. So it's been very confusing to watch. Just off the plate, it's 2-2.
Or would put more 2-strike balls into play, right, as opposed to the strikeouts. I get it.
And I think the pitching's getting a little bit better. I think that 4-team expansion in the 90s where the pitching was just really horrific. I think there's a lot better pitching now.
Some time at bat for Tatis. 9 pitches already this at bat to Tatis. Still nobody out as the Mets try and make a dent here in the 4th inning. And now it's 3-2. Tatis making his first start in 8 days. He had been a red hot hitter before David Wright returned to the lineup and cost him an everyday job. And now having some battle with Sean West. With the rain coming down. This will be the 11th pitch.
Boy, nice job by that security guard. Getting down, man. Outstanding. Going back. Moves well for a big guy.
Pitch number 12 to Tatis. And he finally draws the walk. That was quite an effort.
Nice at bat by Fernando.
And that'll load him up with nobody out for Nick Evans. Nick struck out his first time up. Wright is at third, Francoeur at second, and Tatis at first. Evans making just his second start for the Mets since July. Mark Wally, the pitching coach, will take a trip to the mound to talk to West, who had been fairly cruising through the first 3 innings before running into a hiccup here in the 4th.
Yeah, no outs now, starting to get his pitch count up. Over 70 now in this campaign for West.
Get back to throw strikes. 5-run lead.
And not yet an official game,
yes,
which has to be of some concern to the Marlins right now with the rain falling as Bert Badenpop gets up in the Marlins bullpen.
All West must be thinking about now, I'm sure Mark Wiley told him, is that he's been using that double play ball to his advantage these last 2 starts. Just get yourself something on the ground. Let your infield make a play for you. Try to limit the damage.
Double play in the first inning tonight. So a chance for Evans. And Nick hits the first pitch through the hole for a base hit. Wright comes in to score the first Met run. Everybody else moves up a base. Nick Evans with an RBI single, and now it's 5-1. And the tying run will come to bat for the Mets.
Well, very smart hitting by Mr. Evans. Bases loaded, pitcher in trouble. First ball, fastball hitting. Nicely done.
Omir Santos, still nobody out. Santos struck out his first time up. Now the second time around the batting order proving very different for Sean West than the first trip through.
Talked about it before, didn't we, Gary and Keith? That when he gets people on base, he slows it down, gets a little tentative and throwing the balls for strikes.
I'd have him going as windup.
Driven to left center field. Coghlan getting over, tagging at third. Francoeur. He's going to come on home as the throw goes to third. It's a sacrifice fly for Santos to cut the Marlin lead to 5-2.
Don't you love these Met fans that are here cheering like it's a... I love it.
It's September 10th. The team is 18 games out. If you're here, you're a huge fan.
That's right.
Here's Anderson Hernandez, 2 runs home in the inning, still only 1 out with 2 aboard. Hernandez grounded out to short his first time up. Corey Sullivan has come out on deck to bat for Parnell.
Corey 2 home runs in this homestand, back-to-back games.
And Hernandez takes inside. Anderson Hernandez stealthily, since joining the Mets in his first 28 games, with runners in scoring position as a Met, is hitting .435. But he bounces a double play ball to Uggla. And Ramirez with the turn. West turns his second double play of the day. And the Mets settle for 2 runs in the 4th and trail 5-2. Maybe it's fried fish.
Oh, okay. By the way, my hearing would be gone if I was working in that place.
What's that?
My hearing would be completely gone if I worked there.
Easy on the salt.
You're saying you need a little healthier option?
It's fried fish.
I think
the salt is the least of your worries.
Oh, God.
Well, the double play that ended the 4th inning kept Bobby Parnell in the game. He was going to be taken out for a pinch hitter. So he faces Dan Uggla, who homered into the second deck his last time, and so Parnell this time keeps the slider away from him, and it's 1-2. Uggla now with 27 home runs and 75 runs batted in.
Well, Uggla has short arms. He likes that ball middle in, much like Bill Madlock, the 2-time batting champion for the Giants and mainly for the Pirates. Bill Madlock had the shortest arms, and pitchers couldn't get inside on him. You really had to run it in there.
When you say short arms, I think of 2 guys, Steve Garvey and Greg Jeffries.
Ron Say.
Ron Say, that's good.
Well, Ron Say has short legs, too.
That's why they
Penguin.
call him the Penguin. Uggla draws a leadoff walk. And that's 5 of those babies that Parnell's given up tonight. Let's answer our Aflac trivia question. We asked who are the only 2 players in Major League history with more than 13,000 plate appearances for one franchise.
You were right on one, Ronnie.
Yeah, I had Yastrzemski and Musial, and you talked me off Musial with the military service, and then Hank Aaron, of course.
Same franchise, three different cities.
That's right. Those guys did the military service. They lost a lot of time.
Grounded fair right over the bag and down the line, and that'll roll all the way to the corner for Cody Ross. Ugla being waved around. He'll score easily. Ross pulls it at second with an RBI double, and now it's 6-2 Florida. Second RBI of the night for Cody Ross.
Nice hustle, Ugla. Gets his teammate a nice ribeye steak here. Ross fastball hitting. Right down the line.
You know, Keith, like I said before, they might not hit the great average, Ross and Ugla. I think they're in the 215s, 218s or something like that against the Mets, but low 200s. But it seems to me they hit for damage every time against the Mets.
So now Cameron Maben is 0 for 2. By the way, just as a follow-up on that Aflac trivia question, we gave you the 2 players with 13,000 plate appearances for a single team. There are only 3 other guys in Major League history who've had 13,000 plate appearances at all.
Pete Rose?
Pete Rose has to be one.
Pete Rose.
Ty Cobb.
Ty Cobb. And Ricky Henderson.
Oh, Ricky. Let me tell you something. Ricky Henderson's one of the greatest players to ever play the game.
Bounce down to third. And Wright throws out Maben as Ross holds second, 1 away.
To get 13,000 at bats, you've got to be a leadoff hitter, and you don't walk. Ricky walked.
Or play for 25 years.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, 13,000 plate appearances, so that counts walks.
That's right. So, you know, when you're on the road, you have more options, more chances to get up 5 times because you're always going to hit the 9th.
And Ricky had tons of walks, of course. Ricky's the only guy in the 3,000 hit club who had more games played than hits.
That's amazing, you think?
Yep.
Here's Sean West. He grounds one to short. Runner advancing. Anderson Hernandez takes a shot at third, and he gets it. Hernandez throws out Cody Ross trying to cross over for the second out.
Tell you what, the Marlins just playing a little bit loose here. You know, they're kind of hanging in there in the playoffs, and they're making some mental errors here. Here's another one.
And you hear the trainers going out to Sean West, who are they afraid he pulled something running down to first base?
He will not get a W. He will not be William West in the paper tomorrow.
Well, West went down here. Looking at the play at third, might have lost his bearings.
Oh, is it?
Oh, he tweaked his right ankle.
That's what he gets for looking at the ball. Oh, well.
Well, he's pronounced himself okay, and he's going to stay in. But clearly in a little discomfort here. And he's worrying more about his pitching than his base running right now.
Off the side of the bag. Those pitchers. Jeez. That's the one good thing about the DH.
I'm red-faced.
The only thing.
I'm red-faced as you speak.
Well, he's not wearing a jacket.
That's
Makes
a
you
plus.
feel better, right?
Yes.
Now Chris Coghlan is 2 for 3 tonight, a single and a double. He scored a run. Marlins with 6 runs and 7 hits off Parnell. Bobby about to throw his 99th pitch of the night. That changeup is still very much a work in progress, Ronnie.
Well, he honestly gives it away. I mean, that is his problem right now. He just slows his body down, slows his arms down, and these hitters are like sharks. They just see that immediately, and they will not swing at it because he hasn't proven he can throw it for strikes.
Well, the Nationals putting up a big 5 spot against the Phillies in that 5th inning. Adam Dunn hit his 36th.
I know that Bobby has fooled around with a split finger too. That's something that maybe he could work on. Another thing he could do is change speeds on his slider. Have a hard one that he'll throw for to strike out and one that he gets over early in the count. Those are things you can work on as a pitcher, to have more than 2 or 3 pitches. And in fact, not my recommendation, but he's going to have a few more starts, which is going to get him close to maybe 90 to 100 innings. It might behoove him to go to the Arizona League and maybe make a couple starts with the pitching coach beside him, and just get a couple against lower competition and get his innings up. Because if you get stuck with Parnell only having 100 innings pitched this season, then you have the same problem you'll have next year. How far do you push him? Do you push him to 150, 60, 70, 80? Are you afraid to go over 200 because you only pitched 100 the year before? Those are things that I know organizations think about now. They're very serious about.
Again, the 3-2, and Conklin grounds one out to short. Hernandez will have to go to first, and that'll do it for the Marlins. We're halfway through. Florida's leading 6-2. Browse the largest online selection of authentic team gear, including official caps, t-shirts, jerseys, collectibles, and much more. Get your team gear straight from the source. Shop the Mets.com shop. Sean West carries a 6-2 lead into the bottom of the 5th. Bobby Parnell's work is done for the day, and Wilson Valdez will bat for him. It'll be Valdez, then Angel Pagan, and Luis Castillo for the Mets in the bottom of the 5th. So Parnell lasts just 5 innings in this start, and his Jekyll and Hyde starting regimen continues as Valdez gets nicked by the pitch, and the Mets have a leadoff base runner. So West's first pitch in the bottom of the 5th hits Wilson Valdez. Barely.
Got the old be tucked in his shirt. They still be out.
That's 4 times in 5 innings the Mets have had the leadoff man on against West. Time to take a look inside Citi Field, brought to you by the New York City Union Carpenters and Contractors.
You know, Gary, I've learned some things over my field reporting career here, and I learned when it rains, find shelter. I'm in the Moe's Clubhouse right now. This is clearly one of the coolest places to watch the game. Seats 100 people. You have to have a minimum of 25, or in this case, SNY Mike kind of got me in, so that works too. But I don't know anybody else that has one, so you got to get a ticket. 100 people though, but it's great. You have everything in here. You have the food, restrooms, facilities, and maybe the coolest thing is when it gets cold, they have garage doors that kind of come down, so it's climate controlled. So while you guys are freezing up in the booth, Evan Burkhart will be nice and toasty back here. Back to you.
Nicely handled, Mr. Burkhardt. You know, we had one of our Gary, Keith, and Ron events in the Modell's clubhouse earlier this year, and it was a fantastic event. That was on Mother's Day.
It's a pretty cool view. It's almost like you're playing right field. And the other thing, Kevin, correct me if I'm wrong, you can also see the relief pitchers warming up, or at least for the Mets, right?
No, you can see actually both, Ronnie.
Oh, wow,
It's
cool.
pretty neat because they're right. I mean, they're right there. So you can even, there's a fence right there where the bullpen catcher, I mean, is literally 5 feet away from you. So that's really awesome. And you know, yeah, I love the perspective because right now, just looking at Cody Ross, I like you basically watch the game as a right fielder. So it's kind of neat. You know, you see his reactions, see what he does to back up plays, things like that. So it is a really neat, different perspective.
Angel Pagan rips one down the left field line into the corner. Off the wall, played nicely by Codwin.
And Pagan hustles into second base with a double. So Pagan has yet another multiple hit game. His 15th double of the year, and he hit this ball hard.
Well, West doesn't have a lot of weapons, and he doesn't throw hard, and he's got to throw that fastball, and Pagan looks like he's taking BP all over it.
And Sean West is done. Remember, he tweaked his ankle, it appeared, running the bases in the top of the inning. And now he's not going to go the required 5 needed to get himself a win. Freddie Gonzalez will.
It's Badenhop.
Bert Badenhop comes on in relief for the second time in this series. Mets have second and third and nobody out, and Luis Castillo takes a strike.
Well, he's had a pretty solid year for Freddie Gonzalez's crew. 29 games, 6-4. So he's been a pitcher of record out of that bullpen.
Valdez is on third after being hit by a pitch. Pagan at second. Castillo's gone 0 for 2 tonight. Badenhop came on in the 5th inning in the first game of the series after Rick Vandenherk had to leave because of a stiff back, and Badenhop gave up a run on 2 hits in an inning of work on Tuesday night.
And that was not a quick hook by Freddie Gonzalez. They need to win every game. They can't be fooling around when they've got a lead.
Slap foul as Castillo broke his bat. West went 4 innings plus, allowed 6 hits. The 2 runs so far, with a couple on base, his responsibility. 2 walks, 4 strikeouts, and a hit batsman. 82 pitches for West as he takes his exit.
Question for you, Garrett. I know I'm getting way ahead of the game. We're going to Philly, right, for 3.
Philly for 4.
And then Atlanta.
Atlanta for 3.
When he ties on the road trip, ties all the way through. Is it be cold in Atlanta?
Well, I think probably Sunday afternoon in Philly it's going to be really nice. We'll probably wear polos.
Well, you will be wearing polos.
Oh, you're not working Sunday?
I'm not working Sunday.
You were on the schedule.
No, I'm off.
Oh. Bailing out on us, huh? 1-2 on the inside corner, strike 3 called. So Castillo down looking for the first out of the inning.
Good pitch right here.
Badenhoff throws a little sidearm right there, throws that fastball. It comes back over the middle of the plate. Well placed.
So 1 out to David Wright. It was 1 for 2. Singled and scored in the 4th. That base hit snapped an 0 for 15 skid for David. It's very interesting looking at the National League top 10 in batting. You've got Hanley Ramirez, who came into the day at 359, and then Pujols at 331. But you go down to the 9th and 10th hitters, 306. You don't have a lot of guys who qualify for the batting title hitting for particularly high averages.
I love it. It's come back to earth. That always reminds you of the year Yastrzemski, Ronnie, in '68.
301, right?
Only one to hit 300 in the American League that year.
Pete Rose hit over 330 that year, though, didn't he?
Yes. I was referring to the American League. And there was all the talk that someone might lead the American League in hitting in '68 without hitting 300.
Well, it's one of the reasons why they lowered the mound, and eventually the American League put in the DH a few years later. 2-0 to David Wright. And Badenhoff finds the outside corner. Maybe if a few more guys had hit 300, we never would have had that abomination. The
yes,
DH.
no fooling. There may have never been a slider. The slider became prominent because of the lowering of the mound.
The shortstop, that'll get a run in, and now they've got Pagan trapped. Cantu makes the toss to Ugla, who puts on the tag. So some poor base running by Pagan for the second out. But Valdez scores to make it 6-3.
Well, that's just not a good base running judgment right there. The rule is ball hit to the left of the shortstop, you can go to third. Right at him or to his right, you don't do that because that's what happens.
Well, we've seen both teams have that happen to them in the last inning. Cody Ross got nailed at third base on a ball hit in front of him. So give an RBI to Wright, his 60th of the year. Now Frank Cora takes a strike. Jeff had an interesting afternoon today. He was in the city as part of the I Participate program, a volunteerism and community service ceremony promoting welcome back veterans, along with Mayor Bloomberg and Ashton Kutcher. Bounce toward the hole. A base hit for Frank Cora is now 3 for 3.
Well,
so that base running play by Pagan looms large.
Could be a 6-4 ball game right now.
Well, the Mets will get the tying run to the plate now with Tatis coming up. Well, last night the Mets were down 6-0. Came back to make it 6-3 before falling short. Tonight fell behind 5-0. Now they're back within 6-3 again. Sean West not loving life after his outing ended in 4 innings plus. So now a chance for Tatis, who had a monumental at bat in the 4th inning, a 12-pitch walk against West. Tatis 0 for 1, and he takes low from Badenhoff. Right at second, Frank Cora at first with 2 down. Each team now with 7 hits tonight. 1-1 to Tatis. Second half of the year has been much more fulfilling for Tatis, who over the last 20 games is hitting .356. Got a chance to play some more and took advantage of it. Nick Evans on deck. That's plenty of left-handed bats in the dugout if Jerry Manuel wants to make moves tonight.
Ooh, some sinkage there. Good sinker. Tatis stays in the at-bat. This ball had some good movement. Gotta love these Met fans that are here.
Rain falling, wind blowing.
They're chanting, "Let's go Mets." They're into it.
Two and two to Tatis. And he loops one into center field, a base hit. That'll chase home David Wright. Frank Core goes to third. Fernando Tatis with an RBI single. And now it's 6-4 Florida. So a two-out hit for Tatis, plates his 40th RBI of the season.
Well, flat, high slider. Just keeps his hands back. Kind of stepped in the bucket a little bit, but he kept his hands back and let go with one hand. Beautiful. Nice adjustment to that high slider.
So two are home here in the fifth, and now Nick Evans. I thought Jerry might put up a left-hand hitter here, but he'll leave Evans in after Nick had an RBI single his last time up. And the breaking ball popped up. Cameron Maybin waiting for it to come down through the raindrops, and he secures it to end the inning. But the Mets get closer. RBIs by Wright and Tatis, 6-4. Nice. Here's the results of your Toyota text poll. What do you think the Mets should do in coming years? 3/4 of you say continue to build around the core players. Reyes and Wright and Beltran. Do not trade them away. Thank you for participating. This is the Major League debut for young Toby Stoner.
Well, one of the few players born in Landstuhl, Germany. Went to Davis and Elkins College in West Virginia. Good fastball, about 92. Slider is his second pitch. Still working on his curve and changeup.
See his numbers from Buffalo this year. He also had 7 starts in Double-A this year at Binghamton.
So is he an Army, Air Force brat?
His dad was a intelligence officer for the Air Force.
Nick Johnson, his first assignment. Nick is 0 for 1, and he's walked twice tonight. And the curveball from Stoner is in for a strike. Toby is 24 years old. 16th round draft pick by the Mets in 2006. Slow ground ball, and Stoner's there to field it with 2 hands. And that's his first out in the major leagues. 1 out and nobody out. Let's check in with Chris Carlin, who's standing by for a New York State Smokers Quit Line game break. Mr. Desmond is ready for his close-up.
Nice.
And Levon gave up those 2 runs in the first inning. He settled down.
Here's Hanley Ramirez, and Hanley takes ball 1. Ramirez 1 for 3. Should have had a second hit, but on an apparent base hit to right field, Nick Johnson got thrown out at second base to negate the base hit.
Good curveball right there, a slider.
And that fastball in and sent Ramirez to the seat of his pants. 1 and 2.
Good movement on that sinker that tied up, apparently. Ramirez.
Like a left hook from George Foreman.
I mean, he went down like it was just taken out from under him. 2 and 2 to Hanley. Toby Stoner facing Nick Johnson, Hanley Ramirez, Jorge Cantu, his first 3 batters in the big leagues. Just like Rose, Morgan, and Schmidt, right?
Yes, that's right.
That was Ronnie's triumvirate of batters to begin his career.
Somehow got through that inning.
They didn't know what you had.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. So true.
You tricked them.
I made it 4 times through the lineup somehow, some way.
3-2. And the breaking ball right through Stoner, and he goes down hard.
How about that?
Well, after Ramirez was left on the seat of his pants, Stoner was left in the prone position after escaping that shot up the middle.
Another changeup. He kind of gives away that change. There he goes. Oh.
Well, like a rock'em sock'em robot, Toby is right back up again. 1 out and 1 on for Jorge Cantu. Well, I'll say this. Toby, when he is telling his grandkids about his major league debut and talks about the first big league hit against him, will be showing that video, because that video is going to be everywhere.
That's right.
2-0 to Cantu, who walked to force in a run back in the first inning, 0 for 2. Into left center field and deep, but Evans is back. And that's the second out. Back to first goes Ramirez. I don't think we've ever seen 2 ejector buttons pushed in such different ways in the course of 1 turn at bat. I mean, think about it. Ramirez going down and Stoner going down in quick succession. Almost like a tag team event. Baker has struck out twice and walked.
Trying to think of that heavyweight fight where they knocked each other down. Back was
They both knocked each other down.
Foreman against, was it wasn't Tate. They both was just a slugfest. Ron Lyle. Remember remember that fight, Ronnie?
Yes, I do.
They
Ron Lau
knocked each other down at the same time.
Yeah.
Well, there was more knockdowns in that fight. Then in the end, Ron Lau couldn't get his hands up. Foreman just put him out.
Time to stop it.
Put him asleep. Oh, I never saw a fight. I was watching with my dad. We never saw people go down like that before. And Foreman, to Foreman's credit, he got up and won that fight.
Stoner ahead on Baker 0-2. And the curveball popped up into shallow right. Francoeur a long way to come, but he gets there. And so Toby Stoner throws a scoreless inning on a night when they're dropping like flies at Citi Field. Off their seasons against the Texans in Houston, and they better win. Tune into SNY for Jets Post-Game Live with wall-to-wall locker room coverage, player reactions, highlights, and exclusive interviews on Jets Post-Game Live Sunday after the Jets-Texans game, and every Jets game only on SNY.
And that's a tough opener for the Jets.
I did some investigative reporting because I gave you the win in the win column. Texans are a little tougher than I thought.
The problem is they have to come home and play the Pats the next week, so
got to win on the road.
Really help if they got a win under their belts. Omir Santos leads off in the home sixth inning.
Isn't there the opening night game tonight? Isn't the Steelers playing?
Is as we speak.
So all you folks that forgot about that, don't change that dial now.
Well, they had forgotten until you reminded them. Ugla to his right, the off-balance throw on a hop, and they get him. Nice play by Dan Ugla to throw out Omir Santos for the first out.
Well, nice back. Oh, it wasn't a back hit. He came and scooped it and gave the first baseman a nice long hop. And right now, Ugla, I guarantee you, knows he has a slick fielder over there, Nick Johnson. Just get it in the vicinity. And he'll Wilson. And not Valdez. Pickett.
Here's Anderson Hernandez, who's grounded out twice, once into a double play. 0 for 7 in this series. Mets were down 5-0 in this game, but they're in it now, 6-4 as they bound in the sixth. And a broken back grounder. This one right at Ugla. And quickly 2 out. So Burt Badenhop gets 2 quick ones. And now the pitcher's spot due up. And Jeremy Reed will come up to pinch hit.
Jeremy, who is doing a terrific job off the bench as a pinch hitter.
Reed batting for Toby Stoner, who turned in a scoreless inning in his big league debut. Now Sean Green gets up in the bullpen. And Tony being debriefed by the assistant trainer Mike Herbst. He'll call everybody he knows tonight, or they'll call or text him.
Still got the adrenaline working, you can tell. And then probably a good move by Jerry just to get him in there to get an inning, because he's supposed to piggyback Maine on Sunday afternoon's ball game, in case Maine can only go 5 innings.
Well, it's got to be very difficult if you're a starting pitcher, as Toby Stoner has been throughout his minor league career, and now you make your big league debut and you got all geeked up. And in fact, he was up in the first inning today when Parnell got in trouble. He warmed up a few times. He pitches 1 inning, and now he's done.
Yeah,
as a starter, you're not used to that.
Yeah, he has all that extra energy left over. Plus, your first in the big league is unlike any other.
Reed swung, and it's 0-2.
Jeez, did he swing?
I don't think he's.
Jeff Nelson said he did.
Jeez.
I think it helped, though, the Stoner Gary was able to start the inning. Didn't come in the middle of the inning. It's a little easier for the guy that started all season long.
And Reed down on 3 pitches to end the inning. Second strikeout for Badenhop in relief. Through 6, 6-4 Marlins.
All right. Well, here's your Jeep around. Redlegs again. 5-1, 7 straight. Boy, they're having a great little homestand. They're in the hunt. Adam Dunn, red hot. Nationals came back. We're down 2-0 early. They beat the Phils 8-2. It's good for the Nationals out there. I mean, it's good for the Marlins, and Nate McLeod for the Braves. Homers. Wow. And the Braves are ahead 6-4. Thank you.
Nice.
We're giving Gary a break in September here, because Gary has to read
absolutely outstanding.
You have to read those things year in, year out.
You know, done now 36 home runs for those.
The best part about that, Keith, is the feeling with which you read it.
Yes.
I mean, you really put your all into that.
Yep.
That was outstanding.
Yep.
Dan Uggla leads off in the 7th inning and takes a strike.
Don't worry, fans. It's not a palace coup here. Gary's our play-by-play guy.
By the way, that Atlanta-Houston game is in the 4th inning.
Oh, I said it was a 6-4 win.
Well, I don't know what you said, but just let the people know. And that's Roy Oswalt they beat up on tonight.
And that's the only 33. This is the other only 3 games in the National League tonight. It's a very limited schedule all around the major leagues.
Rockies, by the way, with that 7th straight win, are now just 2 games behind the Dodgers in the NL West. The Dodgers got beat on a bases-loaded walk last night by the Diamondbacks.
You know, we talked about teams on both sides of it, winning teams and losing teams. The Rockies have that magic like they had 2 seasons ago. They don't ever believe they're out of a ball game.
And winning the last few days, Green strikes out Uggla. 1 down in the 7th. Winning the last few days without Troy Tulowitzki.
Good sinker here from Sean Green. We showed you the last couple of days that his last couple of appearances, he's dropped his arm angle a little and is getting a lot more sink on that fastball.
The Marlins can hang on tonight, they go 5 behind Philly. That's still a long way to go.
That's if the Nats hang on to that lead over the Phils. They're in the 8th. Cody Ross, a single and a double. He's driven in 2 tonight. Let's check in with Kevin. Kevin, where are you?
I'm still in the Moe's clubhouse, guys, just in case the rain comes back. Cody Ross, he was such a good athlete growing up. He could have been just as well a football player. His father, Kenny, was a big-time football player, had a full ride at the University of Oklahoma, blew out both of his knees, played for the University of Mexico. I mean, they had talked NFL for him at one point. And because of that, he really did not want Cody to play football at all. So he didn't until he was in 7th grade, and he came home and I said, Dad, I really, really want to play football. And so he did. Is that one a doinker that goes in the outfield, and Ross is going to be on first here. And he played 7th grade. Last game of the year, guys, his dad was always worried about the injury because of his injury history. Last game of the year, he's returning a kickoff, splits his tibia in half, breaks his leg. Done for 6 months, and that was the end of his football career. I asked him if he thought he would be a good football player. He said, probably not. So he's doing just fine as a baseball player. Guys, back to you.
Kev?
Yeah.
What's a doinker?
I think it's a little hard to see third base from the Modell's clubhouse.
Keith, it's September, man. I mean, cut me a little slack, brother.
It's a tough clubhouse, Kevin.
And they have scored that a hit for Cody Ross.
Oh, so it's not a doinker, it's a single.
Well, it was kind of, David kind of olayed it. And, it's a hit for Ross. He's got 3 hits today. It's Kiko Calero up in the bullpen for the Marlins.
Cody Ross from New Mexico, of course, best football player to come out of that state. Brian Urlacher, linebacker for the Bears. I saw Cody Ross pitch in a game this year. You see Pedro Feliciano warming up. He had pitched in a game against the Phillies. They were winning 11 or 12-1, and he was outstanding. 2 strikes, had 3 pitches. Fastball, curveball, and change.
Really?
Yes. Outstanding.
Tough lefty, huh?
Yeah. Cody
Ross, one of those anomalies, the left-hand throwing, right-hand hitting position player. 1-2 to Maben, who's gone 0 for 3 tonight. And Ross Glode has come out on deck to be a pinch hitter. The multi-talented Mr. Ross. Here's Glode. The Keith Hernandez wannabe.
He's Hampton, young man.
Maben checks his swing and stops it. 2-2. Well, tomorrow night, the Mets will be in Philadelphia as we look at that half swing. And we will see the maybe revitalized Cole Hamels. And the Phillies, as they head toward the postseason, have got to think very strongly about what their rotation is going to look like when they get there.
Well, I think right now they're more concerned. They've hit kind of a little bump in the road. They were so hot, and they can only stay hot for so long. And they're gotta hope that they can just kind of get through this little lull they're going through right now, and hopefully turn it on, get it some momentum into the playoffs.
Runner goes, swung and missed, and Ross steals the base as Maben strikes out for the 2nd out. 5th stolen base of the year for Ross. I think, though, Keith, that in the long run, the Phillies hitting will be fine. But you have Hamels, who's had an up and down season. J. Happ is hurt now. Jamie Moyer is going to take his spot on Saturday. Cliff Lee has hit a bump after those 5 great starts in a row. You don't know exactly what you're going to get from Pedro. I mean, where do they go when they fashion their rotation for that first series?
Well, I think it will be Hamels. I think Blanton's definitely going to get a start, even though he was roughed up tonight. He was very good last year. Sean Green is going to essentially walk Mr. Glode. But I think their biggest problem is last year everything went perfect with that bullpen, and Mr. Lidge was perfect, and he's been anything but this year, and that's always a killer for teams. Got to get that. Having a great closer is like hockey having a hot goaltender. You can really make a run through.
What is
well, even more so now is the uncertainty, because last night, 2 nights ago, Madsen came in to relieve Lidge during the 9th inning after Lidge got in trouble. Last night, everybody was expecting Lidge to come in, and Charlie Manuel brought in Madsen, and after the game really didn't have any explanation for it as to whether Madsen's now the closer, whether he's supplanted Lidge, what Lidge's role is, and that as you know, with relief pitchers can be a big problem, especially going into the biggest games of the season.
Well, they always say if they're relief pitchers, they need to know their roles to be successful. Jerry Manuel is going to take out Sean Green, go to the bullpen.
His role is not to face Chris Coughlin. So Feliciano will come on. 6-4 Florida. Hey, it's a double dose tonight of the Toyota text poll. We're asking, what is most important to playoff success? An ace, a closer, or the big-time hitter? Text 57508 or SNY.TV to cast your ballot. Pedro Feliciano comes in to face Chris Coughlin with 2 out and 2 on and throws a first pitch strike.
Well, Pedro, usually see him throw a first pitch strike. He appeared in the game 2 days ago and struck out the 2 batters he faced.
Coughlin tonight, a single and a double. He's 2 for 4. And it's hit toward the hole. Smothered by Castillo from the seat of his pants. He's safe at first base. An infield hit for Coughlin. Castillo did his job just by keeping it on the infield and almost threw him out.
Well, nice play by Louis here. Stretched out on the dive. A little tough on the exchange. And hustling down the line, he did beat it.
You know, it's interesting there. So Tatis was not able to reach out and get that short hop. He kind of came off the base to block the ball.
He could have stretched, but Tatis is not a first baseman. You know, he got a guy out of position.
See how he takes his right foot off the base to kind of block that ball and keep it in front of him.
And a close play as a first baseman, you always want to stretch to the ball on that. And, you know, you've got Tatis, who's a third baseman.
Good call by Bob Davidson. Bases loaded now. Coughlin's 3rd hit of the game, and Nick Johnson takes a slider for a strike. Johnson is 0 for 2. He's walked twice and scored a run. A left-hand hitter who's always hit lefties well.
Well, Feliciano, if you recall, earlier in the series faced Nick Johnson and struck him out, Ronnie, with 2 sinking fastballs in and really tied him up.
First 2 pitches have been away in this at bat.
Johnson 4 for 7 now against Feliciano.
So you see, Ronnie, how it's tougher as an analyst because you got 16 players to remember how they were pitched to. When I was playing, I was only had to worry about myself.
Yeah.
So you have to share a little more.
I have to concentrate a little more.
A little more empathy.
I always pay a little more closer attention to the left-hand hitters.
Brian
Stokes up in the bullpen.
But I don't need to go back to the videotape of the computer to see how they were pitched. Remember.
2-1 to Johnson. And Nick takes a strike. 2-2.
Yes, I have a selective memory.
The wind is really starting to kick up. You got papers blowing around in the outfield.
He struck him out, or did it? Nope, foul ball.
Foul ball, just got a piece.
Fastball away. Those good hitters, they just find a way to stay in the at-bat. Hasn't come into him.
A very dangerous hitter, Nick Johnson, when you are trying to pitch him away. Loves to shoot that ball over the shortstop's head when the left-handed pitchers pitch him away.
Lays off. That's 3-2.
Got a merry-go-round here.
Going for the brass ring. The ninth 3-2 count tonight for Met pitchers.
And Johnson hits it hard, a base hit. That'll bring home Ross and bring home Glode. A big 2-out, 2-run hit for Nick Johnson to stretch the Marlins lead to 8-4.
Well, he didn't come inside with 2 strikes. This is beautiful. Pitches up, belt high, away, and that is how you hit a ball away. That's just good hitting right there, and off a very, very tough left-hander.
Well, Nick's had a lot of success against Pedro Feliciano. He's now 5 for 8 against him with that very important hit for the Marlins, giving them a 4-run lead once again. Brian Stokes will come out of the bullpen to face Hanley Ramirez. 8-4 Florida. We'll be right back. Brian Stokes comes on to face Hanley Ramirez. First pitch swinging, gets it under the glove of Hernandez, and that'll bring home another run for the Marlins. Coughlin comes in to score to make it 9-4. Well, earlier in the inning, Castillo did a good job keeping a ball on the infield, but Hernandez couldn't do the same. Hanley Ramirez has his 3rd hit of the night, and the Marlins have pulled away.
Just out of the reach. Old fastball down the pipe. Just out of the reach of Mr. Hernandez. And that should have been Hanley's 4th hit.
Nick Johnson's base running cost him one earlier in the game, but 3 hits tonight gives him 181 hits for the year as he continues to up his league leading average. Now Jorge Cantu's gone 0 for 3 and a walk. 3 runs home in the 7th inning. 2 of them charged to Sean Green and 1 of them to Feliciano as Brian Stokes makes his 2nd appearance of this series. Ramirez with his 3 for 5 tonight has his average up to 360 for the year.
Wow.
Johnson at 2nd, Ramirez at 1st with 2 out. Cantu the 8th man up in the inning. John Baker on deck. Yeah, the Mets will get one more crack at the Marlins this year. They play 3 games down in Florida on their final road trip of the season. And while the Mets have not been able to exact any retribution against the Marlins for the hurting that Florida put on them the last 2 years, perhaps they'll still have a chance to do that down at Land Shark Stadium. It should be right around the time the Marlins will be ready to be on the verge of being knocked out of the race. Sharply hit right at Hernandez, bobbles momentarily but gets the out that finally puts an end to a 3-run inning for Florida after the Mets had gotten within 2. It's 9-4 Florida, 7th inning stretch.
It is.
Time for our Dunkin' Donuts Ask the Booth. John from Staten Island asks a pertinent question. Could you break down the significance of lefty-righty matchups? Do you think that it's overrated? I think that's a great question.
I do not think it's overrated. I think that's the one statistic that a manager needs to have going into a game. Ronnie?
Well, I think the lefty-lefty matchup tends to be an important matchup. The problem is you have to know your personnel. You could have a certain pitcher who, say, has a really good forkball like J.J. Puts. He might be a guy that gets lefties out better than he gets right-handers out. So you really have to know your personnel. But I think still to this day, the lefty-lefty matchup, although it cost the Mets in this game with Johnson with the base hit, is still one that's going to be around. And also, it's become so indoctrinated into the game that managers, I wouldn't say are afraid or have fear, but that's the book. The book is you don't want to be second-guessed by leaving a right-hander in against a left-hander. Most managers will not do that.
Angel Pagan 2 for 2 and a walk today. 10-game hitting streak matching his career high. I will say this. I think there are times when it gets overplayed. And I think that when you have a circumstance where a manager is taking out a better pitcher for a less talented pitcher, or taking out a talented hitter for a less talented hitter, sometimes you're shooting yourself in the foot.
Well, especially in these kind of games where your starter only goes 5 innings. So you have a guy in your bullpen like a Toby Stoner. So he's what, your 12th, 13th, 14th guy, has to pitch an important inning when your team has gotten back in the game.
And Angel Pagan with another base hit, and he is 3 for 3 tonight. And Angel just keeps on racking up the base hits.
Sure does. He has just been a hit machine. Slider, oh, right down the pipe slider. He just takes it. Oh, look at that.
Michel Abreu bat. He was with the Mets during spring training this year.
That's 34.5 inch. So 34.2 is probably 32.5, and the 34 ounce. I can't believe it was a 34 ounce bat.
So Angel is, as the bat says, controlling the game. Has his batting average up to 314 with that hit.
Well, since we put it on TV, let's hope he asks Michelle for that bat.
Well, if Angel keeps hitting like this, he'll be able to get Michelle all the bats he wants.
That's right.
Castillo's gone 0 for 3 tonight. Mets now have 9 hits in the game, and Pagan has 3 of them. Francoeur has 3 of them.
Well, you know, we were asked that question from the young person from Staten Island. Last inning was an interesting way because you had moved Green out. You brought Feliciano in. Green walked the hitter, so Feliciano would face Coghlan. And I totally understand that move. The problem is that if Feliciano with 2 outs doesn't get Coghlan out, now you're on the other side of it because, as you pointed out, Nick Johnson was 4 for 7 coming into that at bat against Feliciano. So all the good cards you had now were dealt away.
But still, even though the numbers were favorable for Nick Johnson, you've got your best left-hander.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
In there.
Pagan runs and Castillo fouls it off. Strange place to be running down by 5 runs in the 7th.
In some ways, you could make the argument that Pedro has been maybe the most consistent of the Mets relievers.
And certainly the numbers tell you that, you know, his success rate against left-handers dictates that you bring him in that spot. No question about it. But we've certainly seen other spots with guys with lesser track records where managers will make knee-jerk moves simply based on the left or right-handedness of a hitter or pitcher.
And there's some long men that you have out there that are left-handed pitchers that can't get left-handers out at all. They get right-handers out better.
Plenty of lefty starters like that.
Yeah.
And the Marlins started tonight. Sean West, lefties were hitting over 350 against him.
You know what that tells me? When you got a right-hander that has better numbers against the left-hander. There's Dan Meyer up there in the bullpen, a lefty. A lefty has better numbers average-wise against a right-hand hitter and vice versa, righty against a lefty. It means that they can't throw inside for a strike, and they don't have a very good breaking ball, don't have great command.
It's a bad combination.
Yeah, it is.
That's a triple threat.
It's the kind we used to like to see come in. Al, how you doing down there? You all right?
Did you have a particular lefty that you liked to face? A guy who was, you know, had some track record that you faced a number of times.
Let me think
Who's
on
the
that
guy
one.
for the Cubs? Frank something. He used to come in the left-hander from Chicago.
Oh,
Cubs.
Frank Tapino.
Did you hit him pretty well?
I had good numbers against him, but I didn't like hitting off Frank. Frank had a herky-jerky kind of that rush hurried motion.
Yeah.
That's a good question here. A lot of left-handers could throw an inside strike. The ones that could were always the toughest. Dan Schatzeder, Rudy May, Woody Fryman could throw inside. Let me think on that. I faced so many over my illustrious career.
But in general, what you're saying is that late in the game, you would much rather see a righty on the mound. I mean, given the basic
I didn't
choice.
mind. Oh, it depends. A lot of times, when I was in a slump, I'd rather face a left-hander. because I had to stay in. You know, if a base hit's going to late in the game and a base hit's going to beat you, I'm more inclined to be more disciplined against a left-hander than I was against a right-hander.
Pagan runs, Castillo fouls it, and Cantu can't quite get there. So Pagan running again, down by 5 runs. Run in this situation, you were darn sure better make it.
Well, it's all by the stats. What they do is that Luis Alicea, the coach at first base, or someone on the bench, does the number and has the stopwatch. And if Calero takes a certain amount of time to deliver the ball to home plate, they say, you know what, go take it if you can. But you're right, better be safe.
3-2 now to Castillo. By the way, Keith, you only hit 250 against Frank Pino.
How many at bats?
7 for 28, 7 RBIs.
That's a lot of at bats.
How many RBIs?
7.
Dave?
7 RBIs.
And so how many hits? How many hits?
7 for 28.
I always faced him. He always faced me with men on base.
So
He
every
came
hit
in.
you had,
I didn't like Frank. Frank was not easy. He was a little guy too, wasn't he, Ronnie?
But he was strong.
Yes, little stocky.
Yeah, muscular. I think he's from this area, if I don't
remember. Frank was
Dave will find out for us.
Frank was another guy that didn't like to come inside, so I just hang on that outside corner on him. Tried to anyway.
Pagan runs and Castillo fouls off another one. Another marathon at bat tonight. Here's the results of your Toyota text poll, and most of you believe, at least a plurality believe, that an ace starter is more important than a superstar hitter or a closer.
Well, especially in the 5-game series, so you can pitch twice. You know, we're looking at the teams that are going to go. You can have a Justin Verlander for the Tigers go twice. We're going with the Yankees. CC Sabathia is going to pitch twice.
John Lackey for the Angels.
Carpenter or Wainwright for the, well, it'll be Carpenter.
And Castillo on a 10-pitch at bat works out a walk. So that's not going away easily. As Calero has given up a single and a walk to his first 2 hitters. So the Mets have 2 men on for David Wright. By the way, Dave Freed says that you hit 368 against Fernando Valenzuela.
I did wear out Freddie.
He was a different kind of a lefty.
He didn't throw. The first year he came up when he was lights out, that was the hardest he ever threw, and it was hard in that way. He was such a master out there. He painted the corners. He had the screwball, and he threw me screwballs.
Really threw screwballs to lefty?
Yes, he did, and he threw hard enough to keep you wary inside. After that first year, he lost around 2 miles per hour, and I never worried inside off Freddie again. And therefore, I had success off of him. And he threw the kitchen sink in. He came by one time. He remember he didn't speak very good English, and I was taking BP when he came in from his laps or whatever he was doing. And he goes, "Hey Keith, you don't swing at bad pitches." I go, "You're right, Fernando." He was a great pitcher, was he not? He could hit too.
Well,
yes,
he was the only pitcher I've ever seen that had his own batting practice at Dodger Stadium every day. Right when you were arriving, the visiting team, he had a couple of the coaches, the batting practice pitcher, and he would take a half-hour BP every day.
Two and one to Wright, who's 1 for 3 tonight, has driven in a run.
Valero's getting himself in a little bit of trouble, isn't he?
Drive the manager crazy. Put him in front of the firing squad here in a minute.
Frank Coors had a big night, 3 for 3, waiting on deck.
Valero's had a good year for them.
The Marlin bullpen has been, in total, a pleasant surprise.
Yes,
It's one of the reasons that they've been able to hang around. It's been a lot better than it was expected to be, because of veteran guys like Calero and Dan Meyer, who've kind of come out of nowhere to help them out. Yeah,
and the young guy Badenhop has done a nice job for him too. And now they're trying to do it with strength in numbers. 12 guys in that bullpen now.
We'll wear you out. Ready for that 22-inning game. Two to Wright, and David can't lay off, and he's struck out for the first out of the inning.
talked about David having difficulty with the breaking pitch. And we talked earlier about David, and you know, Gary, you mentioned how hot and cold he's been this year. But this is the first year, and it began a little bit in the second half of last year. But we never really, prior to that, ever saw David have hardly a batted bat. And you know, and we've seen him have a lot of batted bats the last year and a half.
Tim Wood, the right-hander, up in the bullpen along with the lefty Dan Meyer. Francoeur 3 for 3, 2 singles and a double. He scored a run. Mets have 9 hits. The Marlins have 12. At one point, the Mets trailed this game 5-0. Got within 6-4. And Francoeur gets under one to shallow center. Uggla going out. Maybin and Ross coming in. Ross makes the catch. Pagan had no idea where the ball was. He took off. He's doubled off. Must have thought it was 2 out. Another base running mistake by Angel Pagan is second tonight. And the double play ends the inning. Never know what we might say at dinner. Then catch the Mets-Braves game in an SNY suite at Citi Field on September 22nd. This auction benefits the high school basketball team scheduled to play in the 2010 SNY Invitational. Bid today at sny.tv/charity auction. Lance Broadway comes on to pitch the 8th inning.
Well, Broadway made his season debut for the Mets with 3 innings of relief at Chicago and tossed 2 shutout innings at Colorado. I've been impressed with his ability to keep the ball down in the strike zone. Broadway, who was involved in the trade for Ramon Castro.
John Baker leads off the 8th inning. Now, meanwhile, Angel Pagan keeps on hitting like nobody's business. 10-game hitting streak for the second time in a month and a half. And yet he keeps on lowering his stock by making base running mistake after base running mistake.
And those are the worst kind, when you don't know how many outs there are. And you're down 5 runs. Runners on first and second.
Baker drives a base hit to center. And the Marlins have their 13th hit of the night.
So well, he realizes now, but obviously it's too late, and that's embarrassing.
He's embarrassed, and Razor Shine's the third base coach I watch is screaming and yelling for him to get back, but sometimes you just get lost in idle thoughts.
Here's Dan Uggla, who's 1 for 3, homered back in the 3rd inning, his 27th of the year. in Washington. Matt Stairs just hit a grand slam in the top of the ninth. It's now 8-6 Washington. Still nobody out in the inning. Now there's one out. Up and in Ugla. Keith was already counting that on the Washington win column.
Oh, they're coming back.
Stairs just hit a grand slam.
Oh, wow.
Just getting up to
it. It is the ninth?
Top of the ninth.
They're going to lose.
1-2 to Ugla. Matt Stairs not a bad guy to have around on the bench.
He's a character, too.
Is he 42 now?
42.
To the right side, Castillo smothers another one, but again he can't make the play, couldn't find the ball, and Ugla has an infield hit. That's two that Louis laid out on, but has not been able to get an out with.
Well, he just nice play, and just can't find it. Just can't find it. And that happens. Nice stop.
Nice hustle, nice stop, and just lost track of the ball. That's a lot of times you're getting help from the fans, you're getting help from your teammates. It's right there. It's right there. Where is there?
I hate to say this, but this is a game that has produced some horrible visuals for this team.
Yeah.
Whether it was Toby Stoner falling on his face, getting out of the way of a ground ball, or Pagan's reaction after realizing that he had forgotten how many outs there were, or Louis performing that Sherlock Holmes-like search for the ball.
Let's just say this game won't go to the Hall of Fame.
Cody Ross is 3 for 4 tonight. And Broadway gets ahead of him 0-2.
Here comes the wind again, picking up.
Baker and Ugla, the base runners. 14 hits now for the Marlins. Ross down swinging. Broadway has his first strikeout. 1 out in the 8th. Let's check in with Chris Carlin, who's standing by with a New York State Smokers Quit Line game break. A little early for Jason Giambi, that 3rd inning hit today. As they batted for Jose Contreras after just 3 innings.
He has done a heck of a job for that.
Unbelievable.
Was it last night's game that he walked with the bases loaded again, I believe?
It's been amazing. Well, last night the Rockies were down to their final strike before Seth Smith delivered a 2-out, 2-strike, 2-run hit to bring them from behind and win the game. 7 straight wins. Colorado now just 2 games behind LA in the West, and they've stretched their lead to 4.5 over the Giants in the wild card. Marlins trying to stay 5.5 back if they can win tonight.
We told you last night, Colorado has to make hay right now and get as close as they can to those Dodgers, because the last week of the season they close out with 3 in San Francisco and 3 in Los Angeles.
By the way, Shane Victorino just doubled in a run. It's now 8-7. With still only 1 out in that 9th inning.
It's never over till it's over.
Boy, you come changing your tune. Oh boy.
Dave, you having fun over there? There's that guy. You look enthralled.
Ball 4, and Maben is on with a walk. So the bases are loaded. And Dan Worthen will take a trip to the mound. Here you see the NL West standings with the Rockies win today. The Dodgers were off.
Danny Worthen trying to get the ship righted here for his relief pitcher Broadway. But that walk, the Mets have walked 7 in this ballgame today.
On the way in that game in Washington, Zach Segovia started the 9th inning with that 8-2 lead. Now they've brought in their closer Mike McDougal, and he's fared no better. to allow that game to get to 8-7. Now Wes Helms will be the pinch hitter, with the bases loaded and 1 out. And Helms takes low and away, ball 1. Seems the Marlins have had the bases loaded all night. Back in the first inning, Parnell issued 2 bases loaded walks for the first 2 Florida runs. Back past Broadway and into center field. Baker is in, Ugla right behind him. Pagan's throw is well offline. A 2-run single for Wes Helms, and the Marlins have stretched their lead to 11-4. And the Marlins have come to Flushing again and just kicked the Mets up, down, and sideways.
Well, got ahead 1-0. Came with a fastball, and all that's needed. You don't want to hit a grand slam here. You're just going to get a base hit, just bust the game open. Nicely done by Mr. Helms.
Well, that ball just went right through Broadway. It almost looked like he had that. Eluded his glove.
Now Chris Coghlan, who already has 3 hits tonight, up for the 6th time, and he takes a strike.
Watch this, Keith. It almost looks like it goes right through his glove.
Almost thought he had it. Just under.
Yep. Just beat him to the spot.
Right down Broadway.
Yeah, right.
Well, you know what? If he makes that play, inning's over.
Tatis will take the sure out at first for the 2nd out of the inning, as the runners move to 2nd and 3rd. Check out the IOTV pitch differential on Wes Helms' hit.
See that IOTV just a little down, but still caught in the middle of the plate. But sometimes you have a good pitch like that, you get the ground ball.
Well, he got it.
Yeah,
he makes the play.
It just couldn't make the play.
1, 2, 3 double play, and the inning's over.
Now Nick Johnson, who had a huge hit, a 2-run single in the 7th that turned a 6-4 game into an 8-4 game. That was against Pedro Feliciano after the Mets had turned a 5-run deficit into a ball game. But the Marlins have blown things open with 3 in the 7th and 2 in the 8th, and a chance for more with Maben and Helms in scoring position. And Broadway's breaking ball misses 1-1. Bobby Parnell started, went the first 5. He's on the hook. He allowed 6 runs, 5 of them earned on 7 hits. Toby Stoner's been the most successful Met pitcher tonight in his big league debut from a scoreless inning. Tatis can't get that one, and that'll score 2 more for the Marlins. Maben and Helms both come in to score. Johnson stops at first. He has a 4 RBI night, and the Marlins now lead 13-4. And in a season of lost nights for Jerry Manuel's team, this is about as big a whipping as they've taken all season.
Well, I couldn't agree with you more, Gare. Even a pinch run for Nick Johnson, of course, with the tender hammy, just under the glove of Tatis.
We'll bring in Brett Hayes to run for Johnson. Hayes, a catcher, a September call-up.
This is kind of puts an exclamation point on the sweep here. It's not over. I thought Philly was over.
Here's Hanley Ramirez. Hanley is 3 for 5, has driven in 2 runs. He's raised his batting average to .360 for the season.
Should have been .361.
It's true. Nick Johnson's base running cost him a hit back in the 4th inning on an apparent hit to right where Johnson was forced at second. Hit sharply. Anderson Hernandez with a nice backhand stop and a great throw to get the force at second to end the inning. There's an outstanding play by Anderson Hernandez. But the Marlins tack on 4, 13-4. Where are we looking? 8th Avenue?
Oh.
It's not Broadway. We've already seen him tonight. Tonight after the post-game show, it's 30 minutes devoted to the latest happenings in New York sports with the latest on the Mets, the Yankees, and updates on the Jets and Giants as they gear up for the 2009 season. Geico Sports Night tonight after the post-game and at 1 a.m. right here on SNY. Wes Helms, after pinch running, stays in the game. Pinch hitting stays in the game at third base. And Jorge Cantu will move over to first base with Nick Johnson coming out. And the left-hand pitcher Dan Meyer will hit in Johnson's spot in the lineup.
Well, Dan Meyer was started in the Atlanta organization and went to Oakland and now has had a real solid year here with the Florida Marlins. He played at James Madison University in Virginia, but lives in Mickleton, New Jersey.
Fernando Tatis will lead off in the last of the 8th, 1 for 2. By the way, in Washington, Chase Utley just got an infield hit. First and third, 1 out. The Phillies with 5 runs home in the 9th, trail 8-7. And I did not know this, but Kevin Burkhardt passed this along. Matt Stairs hit that grand slam in the top of the 9th. It was Matt Stairs' first hit since July 11th. He had been in an 0 for 30 slump for 2 months, and he hits a pinch hit grand slam.
That's called breaking out.
Big time. Tatis drove in a run with a 5th inning single. Also had a great at bat in the 4th when he drew a walk when this was a closer game. Nick Evans and Omir Santos to follow in the last of the 8th. You know the Phillies are keeping it. The Marlins are keeping a close eye on that Philly game.
Yeah.
Their best chance is to try and catch Philadelphia. They started the day 6 games behind, and I'm sure at 8-2 they were like Keith. They figured the Nats could lose that game.
That's right. And you see right there on the left, first and third, 1 out.
Well, Cody Ross said after the game last night, because they were watching the end of the Philly game in the clubhouse, he said, "I am watching the scoreboard every out."
Taking a peek, right?
That's being honest. 3-1 to Tatis. Now the Marlins were the only team left with a chance to catch the Phillies now. 6 games behind starting play tonight. And Howard just grounded into a double play to end the game. The Nats hung on and won 8-7.
I told you.
4-6-3 double play to end it. So they get 5 in the 9th and come up short. So the Marlins with a chance now to cut it to 5 games in the NL East. And, you know, who gave them a chance a couple of weeks ago? How many games do they have left with the Phillies? They have 6 left?
Where do they go next, Garrett?
The Marlins, they go home to play Washington over the weekend.
Okay.
Then they go to St. Louis and Cincinnati. Then they host the Phillies and the Mets and finish the season Atlanta, Philly. So they finished the season in Philly.
Yep.
So
last weekend.
They have 7 then, right? Isn't one of the days a doubleheader or no? So they would have 7 games left. Wow.
Well, that's good for them.
So they've got a chance, especially if they win this game tonight.
Oh my goodness.
The Coneheads are back. Tatis smacks one toward the left field corner, and that's off the wall. Coghlan does a nice job playing the carom, and he holds Tatis to a single. That's the second ball Coghlan has played off that angled fence, just like that. Pagan hit a ball there earlier in the game, and Coghlan, you know, is a converted infielder, has done a very nice job reading those balls off the wall.
Nice hitting by Fernando. Bell tie pitch out over the plate.
Yeah, nice play. They've been working with Coghlan that because his arm is not as strong, it's more of an infield arm, that they've told him just make sure you get in as quick as you can, because if the runners are running around, if they see that the ball's on its way in, it stops a lot of runners from trying to go for 2.
He's not relaying the ball to the shortstop like they had Murphy doing earlier.
Their experiments has worked a little better in left.
Evans takes in tight ball 1. The funny thing about that is that, you know, they had that quirky thing where they asked Murphy just to throw the ball to Reyes and have him throw the ball home, and it turns out Murphy's got a pretty good arm. We've seen that at first base.
I never understood that anyway from the first time They tried
Well,
it.
the explanation was that he was still throwing like an infielder, short arming the ball rather than coming over the top like an outfielder, so they didn't trust him to make that long throw home. Anyway, it's a moot point now. Evans pops it up. And Hanley Ramirez there to grab it for the first out. So Evans 1 for 4 on the night. 1 out and 1 on in the home 8th inning. And Omir Santos coming up. Santos 0 for 2, a sacrifice fly in the 4th.
Jeez.
Oh, I see. Those are enhanced hairdos.
Looks like pagodas.
So what have they got in there?
They'd be.
Got a root beer.
Oh, wow.
Mug
root beer enhanced.
They would be fine for that political satire show they have in San Francisco, Keith. Do you remember that? That's been running for 30, 40 years. They have one where everyone comes out with the big and large crepe paper heads. Look at it.
I've always wondered why little girls, when they're young, they scream.
Well, they're screaming because
you
were talking about them on television, and their friends just called us,
Oh,
and they just
text
they were
them.
on TV. Again, Takahashi getting up in the bullpen. But the first thing I thought when I saw those hairdos, I thought about the cone heads who used to come out here when David Cone was pitching.
Oh, they are. Hey, girls. How are you? Yes, you're on TV.
Oh,
They're losing their root beer.
and water.
Oh, my goodness.
Into right center field. Over comes Maben with Ross, and Maben steps in front to make the catch. Tatis scrambling back. 2 out.
Is it soup yet? Nice play by Maben, who can fly. Got some litter out there blowing on the field. It's a real windy night.
It's like Candlestick Park back in the day.
How about that? I must say one thing for Anderson Hernandez. He has swung a much better bat. Remember when he first came up, it was all the great glove, light hitting, and he's really improved with the bat.
It's almost like you could knock the bat out of his hands when he first came up.
He's a little stronger than he was a few years ago. Body is thickened out a little bit.
And he just has a better approach at the plate.
Well, he had several years where he hit very well in the minor leagues, and then the Mets would call him up and he wouldn't hit a lick in the big leagues. But he finally got a chance to play on a regular basis earlier this year in Washington, and that's probably helped. Daniel Murphy on deck to pinch hit. Hernandez 0 for 3 tonight.
Cowbell guys here.
He's always here.
Really?
The difference is because there are so few people in the stands now, you can hear him loud and clear.
And you know, when I leave about 15, 20 minutes after you guys leave, he's still out there.
Strike 3 called. Anderson Hernandez down looking, and when we had the silent 6 the other night, you could hear the cowbell man loud and clear. You could also hear these girls screaming. Those are some happy girls. Ninth inning, Jorge Cantu leads off against Lance Broadway and takes a strike. Cantu 0 for 4 tonight, and an RBI walk in the first inning. Losing count.
Yes.
That's a bad sign.
Well, I mean, look at how many. This is an interesting scorecard I have working here.
Well, 16 hits for the Marlins, and the Met pitchers have walked 7. Cantu breaks his bat, lofts one to left, and Evans gets over 1 out. Our next broadcast on SNY will be Sunday afternoon, the first half of the day-night doubleheader. That will be John Mayne's return to action. Mayne threw a simulated game earlier today, and Jerry Manuel said that John will pitch the day game on Sunday. Here's the final from Washington earlier today.
I called it.
Yeah, I'll pat him all the way. Here's John earlier today.
Well, he threw in a simulated game this afternoon, faced a few hitters. They were in the cage. It was kind of a feel session as Freddie Gonzalez looking on.
Was he consulting?
Marlins manager.
Anderson Hernandez throws out John Baker for the second out.
Maybe he's looking for a future starter. Who knows?
There's Big John.
But John, I was watching. He was throwing extremely hard. Looked very free and easy while he was throwing. And upbeat, which wasn't always the case earlier this season.
A lot of familiar faces back on the screen again for us to see, and you Met fans that are still hanging around.
I think what they really want to see is they saw the velocity in St. Lucie in his last start. He's now throwing a bullpen, a simulated game. He'll start Sunday. But I think the most important thing is to see the stuff there. Is it 94, 95? If they see that, that's going to be encouraging. Will he have that high fastball that they're swinging through?
Right. And that of course, is what made John Mayne a big league pitcher, a guy who could win 15 games in the major.
And it'll be a real test against a Philadelphia team that's a good offensive team, as good as there is in the National League.
Strike 3 called. Ugled down looking. That makes Lance Broadway the longest running thing out of the Mets bullpen tonight. Middle of the 9th inning. 13-4. SNY is brought to you by IOTV. Get the best in HD free with IOTV. By Toyota. By Dunkin' Donuts. by Geico and by Corona. Enjoy responsibly. Andy Gonzalez comes in to spell Hanley Ramirez for the 9th inning. He'll play shortstop, and rookie right-hander Tim Wood will pitch the 9th inning.
From Tucson, Arizona, attended Pima Community College. He was drafted in the 44th round. It's his 3rd stint with the Marlins this year.
Corey Sullivan will pinch hit leading off in the last of the 9th inning, with the Mets down by 9, and Sullivan takes a strike. The starting pitcher for the Marlins, Sean West, went only 4 innings plus tonight, so he did not qualify for the win, even though the Marlins have had the lead since the 1st inning. In all probability, the official score will give the win to Burke Badenhop, who worked 2 scoreless innings in relief. Bobby Parnell is on the hook for the Mets. He gave up the first 6 Marlins runs. It'll be Sullivan, then Angel Pagan, and Luis Castillo here in the bottom of the 9th.
More important for these diehards that are still left here at Citi Field. Mets lose this ball game, we'll go to 500 here in the inaugural season.
Sullivan down swinging. There's the first down in the last of the 9th. Well, right after Ron and Keith and I are done here, it'll be time for Chris Carlin and Bobby Ojeda to pick up the reins. Lincoln Mercury post-game live. All of tonight's highlights, interviews, Jerry's post-game reactions. Lincoln Mercury post-game live right after tonight's game and after all 162 Mets Wegos this year, only on SNY.
I bet you Bobby's in that studio chomping at the bit.
He was certainly chomping last night. Blowing away to Pagan 1-0. Bobby had some pointed words last night. I can only imagine what he's readying tonight. Pagan is 3 for 3 in a walk, 2 singles and a double, but 2 base running mistakes have put the damper on his evening. Tried to go from 2nd to 3rd on a ground ball hit in front of him in the 5th and was out. Forgot how many outs there were in the 7th and got doubled up. The sign man is not leaving till the last out. Guaranteed. 2-1 to Pagan. Cracked into center field. Maben has it, and Pagan is retired as a hitter for the first time tonight.
He's got some nice instincts, doesn't he, Cameron Maben? When he came up and made the team out of spring training this year, and you know, he came in that big deal, of course, with Cabrera, Miguel Cabrera, Dontrell Willis going to Detroit. Maben coming here. Expected big things from him, but he looked a little overwhelmed in that first month. Was sent down. It looks much better now.
Mets are down to their final out. Luis Castillo, the batter, and he takes a strike from Tim Wood, who had surgery for a torn labrum 2 years ago and has battled his way back. Spent a month on the disabled list in May this year because of arm problems. Castillo lofts one foul, and now the Mets are 1 strike away from getting swept. Castillo 0 for 3 in a walk tonight. Tim Wood trying to close it out for the Marlins. And the former Marlin Castillo fouls it away. He was part of 2 world championship teams with Florida. Less so in '97. He was just a backup player, but a huge integral player in the Marlins World Series victory in 2003. Fights that one off to stay alive.
That had to be one of the finest clinching games ever pitched, up there with Jack Morris, of course, with the Twins when he went 10 innings in that game. Beckett with that on 3 days rest shutout against the Yankees.
And an unassisted play for the final out.
Right.
0-2.
Johnny Padres. That was a pretty good one.
1955. How about Sandy Koufax?
Yeah,
at 65?
there you go.
Swing and a miss. Castillo is struck out. The ball game is over. The Marlins complete a 3-game sweep of the Mets in dominant fashion as they win it easily tonight, 13-4.
Well, they had to come in here, and Jerry Manuel takes that long walk after another loss here to the Marlins at Citi Field.